Chapter 1 Reborn in Another World. Chapter 1 Reborn in Another World. Sure, Yen woke up with a start. His head was throbbing in pain, as if it was filled with lead, and it felt extremely heavy. Once the pain decreased slightly, he found himself in a dimly lit stone cave, which was the size of a basketball court. Piles of bones were scattered all over the place, and a dozen corpses covered in strange clothes lay beside him. The clothes looked new and bright, as if these people had died recently. Where is this? Is this still the Bahamas? Shi Yen, 27 years old, was an insane fanatic of extreme sports. His mother died early, while his father died of cancer in the prime of his life. But he had saved a fortune working his whole life. This left him with such a large amount of wealth which he could never use in a lifetime. He owned many things at an early age, which other people would pursue their entire life. Although young and rich, he had no future goals, which made him unhappy for a long time. At the age of 17, he had his first taste of extreme sports, which brought him unspeakable excitement. Given his large amount of wealth, he could undertake these sports as much as he liked, which ordinary people would not be able to afford this. Traditional extreme sports, such as free climbing, crocodile bungee, low-altitude parachuting, volcanic skateboarding, cliff diving, and limbo skating, brought him the greatest enjoyment and pleasure. The thrill of being on the verge of death invigorated him and made his blood boil. In 10 years, he had tried all sorts of the most dangerous extreme sports, due to which his body was extraordinarily strong. Hundreds of near-death experiences made his nerves as hard as steel. He once joked that he was the man who was closest to the Grim Reaper. The Blue Hole exploration in the Bahamas was his most dangerous extreme sports trip. Some of these blue holes were hundreds of meters deep, while some were complex like mazes. What's more, every little move could stir the sand up on the bottom of the cave. No matter how bright your light was, you wouldn't be able to see anything in front of you. Even if you were an experienced diver, you had to wear a steel wire before you jumped into a blue hole. The steel wire was the lifeline of explorers, and its length decided the distance explorers could go. Moving beyond that distance was tantamount to suicide because nobody ever got out of that maze without a steel wire. According to the statistics from the Bahamas Maritime Institute, there was an average of 20 cave diving-related deaths in the Blue Hole, most of whom died from losing direction. In this dangerous extreme adventure, Shi Yen threw away his lifeline, the steel wire, entering into a suicidal adventure, and finally lost himself in the mysterious Blue Hole. And in the Blue Hole, getting lost meant certain death. Shi Yen lay collapsed on the ice-cold rock ground, looking at his surroundings with the aid of a dim light coming from the cave walls. In his mind, there appeared some memory fragments that didn't belong to him. This was the memory of another Shi Yen. That boy was 17 years old and had the same name as himself. He was attracted to antiques and was obsessed with all kinds of historical remains. Because of an ancient map, he strived for half a year and eventually got here with his guards. Feeling weak all over, Shi Yen frowned and slowly lifted himself up. Just then, to his surprise, Shi Yen noticed that this body was not his own, but that of the other Shi Yen who was only 17 years old. He was dumbstruck for a moment. Didn't I die in the Blue Hole? No. I am still alive, but in an unbelievable way. According to the other Shi Yen's memory, this place was called Grace Mainland, where there was no science or technology. There were endless waging wars and warriors raging everywhere. Many dwellers here showed mysterious abilities not long after they were born. Some had the power of lightning, some could control plants, some could tunnel into the earth, some could use the chill of frost, and some are capable of communicating with demon beasts. People with these various abilities would all become warriors, and their abilities were referred to as martial spirits. Martial spirits were nearly all possessed at birth, and only very few could acquire a spirit through some stroke of luck. That is why this mainland was named Grace Mainland, as the warriors believed that martial spirits were God-gifted. Not every warrior could possess a martial spirit. In fact, the majority of warriors weren't blessed with one. Ordinary people could train hard to become a warrior, but there was no way to obtain a martial spirit through training. Martial spirits were so powerful that they could benefit a warrior's training, increasing their combat potential significantly and granting them their own special abilities. As a result, among warriors of the same level, those who owned a martial spirit tended to be much stronger and achieved significantly greater results. They did half the work with double the results. The martial spirit can be inherited through blood, plus there was a higher probability where one inherited the martial spirit. In general, if one of the parents possessed a spirit, there was a high possibility that their child would inherit the same spirit. If both of the parents had a spirit, their child would have an even greater chance to inherit one of their spirits, either from the father or the mother. There was only a 1 in 100 chance that a couple who both possessed a martial spirit would give birth to an ordinary child. Even rarer was the situation where the kid inherited both spirits from his parents. This inherent type of martial spirit was called twin spirits, and those type of lucky individuals which possessed them were also known as a son of God. It only happened to 1 in 10,000 couples who possessed different spirits. Shi Yan stood there and continued to put the fragmented memories in order. The original owner of this body came from the Shi family. They possessed the petrification martial spirit which could make the body as hard as a rock in battle, preventing damage to the body. As said fighter raised their cultivation, the petrification martial spirit would become much stronger, to the point where they were almost indestructible. Unfortunately, this guy didn't inherit the petrification martial spirit and was thus considered a poor successor for the martial arts that the Shi family trained in. He also showed no interest in martial arts and never learned anything about them either. All he had been devoted to was the exploration of historical remains. Thanks to that ancient map, he had crawled through numerous heavy bushes and suffered a lot to arrive at this ancient cave. Woo, woo, woo. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Suddenly, a devil-like cry came from deep within the cave. Astonished, Shi Yan looked around only to find a blood pool in the direction the voice came from. The blood pool, about 10 square meters in size, was located in the middle of the cave, filled with a red fluid which looked just like blood. It was bubbling on the surface and was giving out horrifying shrieks and howls when the bubbles popped. He realized that his escorts were driven insane by the howls, and they had started to kill each other. They all died in succession, while the 17-year-old Shi Yan fainted from the frightening shrieks. It was all because of the blood pool. Shi Yan stared at the blood pool with a rigid face. The howls slowly evoked the desire to kill within him, and made him want to kill anyone around him. His head was still aching, and the howls from the blood pool never stopped tormenting him, which made it harder for him to concentrate. Must be the blood pool. With a grim expression, he tried to guard his mind. His countless near-death experiences had steeled his mind, and Shi Yan managed to calm down. Although his head still ached, he was able to stay focused and walked towards the blood pool. Crack, crack, crack. Shi Yan looked dignified. As he walked, gray, dry bones shattered under his feet. Judging by the pile of bones in the cave, he could only guess how many people had previously died in this place. The pool was the source of this evil. If he wanted to examine the secrets of the blood pool, he had to be prepared for death. As he got closer to the blood pool, the howls kept getting louder and louder, which drilled into his head like sharp knives. The sound of slaughter contained in the howls almost destroyed his reasoning. He wouldn't have been able to bear this pain if it weren't for the extreme conditions he faced for so many years that had slowly formed his spirit. A heap of bones was situated beside the blood pool. Some milky white bones also floated in the center of the pool. This small blood pool was like a sea of blood from hell, which had devoured an uncountable number of lives. Shi Yan had a feeling that his soul was summoned here because of this bizarre blood pool. He thought maybe this blood pool was his ticket back to the earth. When he got closer to the blood pool, Shi Yan suddenly found something strange. The blood in the middle of the pool was scarlet and thick, but he couldn't detect the slightest whiff of the scent of blood. On the contrary, the air around him was very fresh, even filled with an unexplainable fragrance. After careful inspection, he determined that the exotic fragrance actually came from the blood pool. Shi Yan was full of curiosity and thought that there must be something weird in the blood pool. Again, he took a few steps forward. All of a sudden, an illusion of an endless sea, filled with scarlet red blood, entered his mind. Pile of corpses like a small island were there. Some of the bones were like those of the Cretaceous period dinosaurs and were as large as a small hill. There was a repeatedly screaming sound coming out from the blood sea. Kill! 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 Shi Yan tried to stay calm, but he couldn't. His heart started to beat faster and faster. A suffocating and terrifying pressure overwhelmed him. He felt a familiar feeling like those near-death experiences he experienced back on Earth. He knew that the next step likely meant death. However, those dreary adventures over the years hadn't terrified him, but instead had given him the utmost pleasure. Being face to face with death and surviving all perils was the true definition of extreme sports. Step by step, one after the other, under the calling of the blood pool, Shi Yan finally went up to the edge. He stared at the small blood pool. The insane side of his character had been triggered. He roared, "Let's see what you have to offer, small little blood pool." Then he jumped into the pool. Chapter 2: The Body Remodeled. Chapter 2: The Body Remodeled. A sudden change occurred in the blood pool. As Shi Yan stood in the middle of the blood pool, the blood was already up to his waist. However, the blood in the pool started to move around as if it was alive, creeping up and down his body like vines. Seconds later, his whole body was tightly bound and covered with blood. The crimson blood in the pool was like vicious snakes, untiringly wrapping around him until it formed a bloody cocoon. A wave of intense pain spread throughout his body. Shi Yan felt as if his brain was being sliced into pieces. It felt even worse than death. It was as if tens of millions of tiny worms were drilling into his body and squirming around in his arms, legs, bones, and viscera, eating away his blood and flesh. Shi Yan couldn't see anything. He wanted to scream, but couldn't make a sound, and neither could his body move. A strange liquid started flowing slowly along his ribs like a small stream and tore open his veins wherever it passed. Then the liquid rapidly accelerated and separated into many strands, madly surging into the 720 meridians within his body. He felt that his 720 meridians had enlarged significantly as they interchanged between feeling scorching hot and biting cold. It felt extremely uncomfortable. The pain in his head grew stronger. In his dazed state, Shi Yan felt some weird changes happening within his meridians. Soon after, his meridians turned into madly swirling little cyclones. A small amount of the bright red liquid infused itself into every cyclone and was swiftly absorbed into them. After absorbing the liquid, the cyclones enlarged and the process sped up. It may be because of the intensity of the pain that was almost unbearable in his dizzying state. Shi Yan felt that his body was like a huge vessel filled with the strange liquid. It was transforming him in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. Specifically, they were changing the 720 meridians in his body. As this thought flashed through his mind, he fainted. After a long time, Shi Yan awoke again. The searing pain had disappeared, replaced by a numb pain in his meridians. The liquid had returned to its origin and blood pool was tranquil. Unexpectedly, he felt a warm sensation swirling through his body. After this sensation made a complete cycle, he felt extraordinarily comfortable and his body had increased in strength. Profound qi. It dawned on him the blood pool finally brought him some benefits. The thing flowing through his meridians was clearly the profound qi which only warriors could obtain. Within the memory of the other Yen, he came to know that profound qi was the source of power for warriors. It was the foundation for warriors to support and release powerful martial arts. Warriors were ranked into 10 realms, according to the strength of their profound qi. These were elementary, nascent, human, disaster, earth, nirvana, sky, spirit god, true god, and king god, with each realm containing 3 sky levels. Warriors were the most powerful individuals in this world. Profound qi determines the status one would have. One could be a warrior as long as he had the slightest amount of profound qi. Most people couldn't get profound qi throughout their entire life. Once obtained, they could strengthen it simply by training. Therefore, as long as a warrior possessed qi, they would always have their own place in this world. As the weak, profound qi gently circulated throughout his body, Yen came to his senses. Even if he couldn't go back to his world, he wouldn't starve to death here. Just then he noticed that the blood cocoon was still tightly wrapped around him. Yen spared no effort to struggle. Crack! A big slit cracked open on the blood cocoon, and Yen jumped out. Looking around, he found himself in that odd cave with bones everywhere. However, the blood pool had all dried up. In the dried-up blood pool, only a few pieces of broken bones were left. The bright, red, thick pool of blood had disappeared without a trace. A huge, glittering blood cocoon, as thin as a wafer, towered in the center of the empty pool. However, after Yen only glanced at it, a small flame ignited at the bottom of the cocoon. The flame grew wildly and started to burn the bones. In a few minutes, the blood cocoon and the bones were all burned to nothingness. A red light sparkled in the dry pool, an old ring with intricate blood vein designs quietly lying there. Yen stared at the strange ring and assumed this ring was somehow connected with the blood pool. After a few seconds of hesitation, he stepped in again, picked up the ring, and wore it on the ring finger of his left hand. The ring carried a warmth that made Yen feel strongly connected to it, as if the ring had become a part of his body. All at once, the weak, profound qi in his body lost control and rushed towards the crimson ring. However, his skin blocked it and it failed to enter the ring. Yen was shocked and tried to take off the ring immediately, only to find the ring had been firmly stuck onto his ring finger like an unmovable boulder. No matter how hard he tried, the ring wouldn't move an inch. Now that the profound qi couldn't break the skin, it went back to normal after a while. The warmth and the red gleam on the ring faded away as well. Shaking the ring around for a moment, he realized that there was no longer anything unusual with it. Thus Yen started to analyze the situation. Soon, Yen concluded that all the blood in the pool went into his body. The blood pool was 10 square meters in size. Though not huge, the blood it contained would weigh at least a few tons. Even an elephant couldn't hold that much liquid inside its body. Yen turned pale. He subconsciously looked around and wanted to see how his body had changed. Had it swelled up? When he looked, Yen was startled again. Surprisingly, his body became skinnier than before, like it was only skin and bones. The clothes on him that had fit before looked ridiculously large now. Rather than calling him skinny, it was better to call him a withered mummy. Yen turned even paler. He never expected that this blood pool would not only fail to send him back to his previous world, but would make such unthinkable changes to him. Guru, Guru! His stomach began rumbling, and he suddenly felt ravenous. He thought he could almost devour an elephant. But the cave had nothing edible. He glanced at the dry blood pool and was sad to find that he could no longer return to his world. Sure, Yen decided to find a weapon. He remembered his escorts had fought one another with all kinds of weapons. However, after examining them, he found them either rusted or destroyed, not useful to him anymore. Disappointed, Yen could only leave empty-handed from the stone cave. The moist air was warm and carried with it the sound of water running in the distance. Ancient trees blocked the sun like a giant umbrella. Only a few spots of sunlight could be seen on the wetland. The dark forest. Yen recalled this place with the help of the memory of his new body once he got out of the cave. The dark forest covered a large area, where the trees were too thick to let the sunlight in. The reason why it was called the dark forest was 'cause it was damp and dark even in the daytime. The dark forest was surrounded by the Merchant Union, the Fire Empire, and the God-Blessed Empire. The Merchant Union was to the north of the forest, the God-Blessed Empire in the south, and the Fire Empire in the west. Merchants from the three countries had to pass through the dark forest to trade. Demon beasts always made their appearance in the dark forest, some of which even reached the 6th or 7th level. As the trade caravan soldiers and warriors crossed the dark forest now and then, they knew that high-level demon beasts only appear in special areas and low-level ones were usually vagrants. In general, trade caravans wouldn't come across high-level demon beasts as long as they traveled along their usual routes. Only soldiers and warriors who often ventured into the beast-infested areas looking for fights would easily come face to face with high-level demon beasts and eventually suffered great losses. Great risk yields great benefits. Once a soldier killed a demon beast of the 6th or 7th level, he would immediately obtain many crystal coins. Demon beast above level 6 each had a monster core inside its body. This monster core was of great use to warriors, alchemists, and blacksmiths. Apart from the monster core, its fur, fangs, bones, flesh, and poison were all very valuable. The body of a high-grade demon beast was full of treasures. This attracted bold soldiers and warriors to venture into the dark forest. However, only a few people achieved their goals and gained some benefits. The majority of them underestimated the wisdom and strength of a demon beast, and thus paid for it with their lives. Yen observed his surroundings for a while and heard the sound of water in the distance, combined with the sound of women talking. As Yen was hesitating, he noticed a slight rustling sound from the bushes not far away, as if someone was fiddling with the leaves. Yen subconsciously looked towards that direction. Through the thick bushes, he saw a slim and graceful female body. The woman took off her white belt, squatted down, and showed her peach-shaped white bottom to him. Her snow-white hand was waving off annoying mosquitoes as she was about to urinate. The woman apparently didn't notice the eyes behind her as she began to sing happily. At first, Yen was stunned. However, his eyes shamelessly scanned towards her bright, fair skin, secretly admiring her enchanting ass and wondering how her face would look like. Pa! The woman suddenly slapped on her smooth, white left hip to kill a mosquito. The movement of her but captivated Yen. Soon the woman finished urinating, buckled her belt, and muttered to herself, "Damn mosquitoes!" Unexpectedly, the woman turned around quickly. Her hand sent out a green arc of lightning which targeted all the surrounding mosquitoes and killed them on the spot. As she turned, Yen finally saw her delicate appearance. She looked around 20 years old with 5.5 feet in height. Her face was glowing like a bright moon, and she had a slim waist, well-developed chest, and nice posture. She was wearing an exquisite lavender robe and soft silver armor, which couldn't cover her fascinating figure as a legendary wild vixen. Yen focused on her hot body and thought that she was more beautiful than the most popular superstars in his world. Yen couldn't stop his eyes from wandering. Suddenly, the woman looked directly into his eyes through the huge banana leaves. The beauty's eyes flashed like lightning. Chapter 3, First Encounter. Chapter 3, First Fight. First Battle. Did you see me naked? The beauty clenched her teeth tightly with rage in her eyes. Yes, I never miss anything in front of my eyes. Sure, Yen nodded, not even bothering to deny it. Did you enjoy it? Skin like porcelain, breasts like flowers. I'd say it was a feast for the eyes. Sure, Yen was strangely honest, without the slightest bit of shame. You want to see some more? Mo Yenyu's delicate body trembled with anger. She had never met such a shameless man. Well, if you wouldn't mind taking your pants off, and don't mind me staring at you, then yes, I would love to take a closer look. Sure Yen smiled. Apparently, Sure Yen didn't want to pretend to be somebody he was not. Before he came to this world, every time he finished some extreme sport, he would have to find a woman for pleasure. Extreme sports was his biggest enthusiasm, while women were the essential spices in his life. Mo Yenyu almost jumped up and down on her feet. Who the hell is this guy? What a bastard. He appeared out of nowhere like a ghost. Every word he says is shameless, and he appears to be proud of himself. In a competition for shameless bastards, he would be holding the crown. Mo Yenyu had to take a deep breath before she began to talk again, while her beautiful breasts heaved up and down. A surge of rage bloomed in her chest. Surprisingly, she laughed. Good. Very good. Hearing her say this, Sure Yen became gleeful, and a horny smile appeared on his face. Wow, it seems you don't mind at all. Well then, please go ahead. I am really looking forward to it. Last time I didn't pay much attention, but this time I won't miss anything. Mo Yenyu was completely shocked by Sure Yan's response. After she figured out he wasn't teasing, she couldn't control her rage anymore. Won't miss anything, my ass. Cursing, Mo Yenyu crossed her arms. Suddenly, shining green light appeared on her hands. She spread her arms, shooting a green beam as quick as lightning toward Sure Yen. Everything between them was cut into pieces as a green arc-shaped light flashed by. With an unstoppable force, the green lightning struck Sure Yan's right in the chest. Boom! Sure Yen was tossed backward on the ground. His skeleton-like, weak body couldn't balance himself, and he fell hard into a bush. His chest was badly lacerated to the point where even bones were visible. Blood gushed out of his wounds. That single hit almost killed him. Following the path between the two people was clear. What appeared to them was a small path with a burning scent. Mo Yenyu moved toward Sure Yen. Her face was as cold as ice. Sure Yen finally came back to his senses. The intense pain in his chest made him realize that the girl in front of him wasn't easy to deal with. In his previous world, if he did the same thing to a girl, the worst-case scenario was the girl calling him an asshole or filing a lawsuit against him. But nothing like this. He was still new to this place and was not used to the cruel way of life here, especially in the dark forest. Because this forest was not subjected to any country's jurisdiction and also contained a large variety of demon beasts, as well as precious and exotic herbs. Warriors used this forest as their training ground, while mercenaries and merchants saw this place as a natural treasure trove. There were no restriction or rules in this forest. Due to the demon beasts and precious herbs, robbery and murder were common in this place. Even your companions would betray and backstab you at crucial moments. What an insane place! The law of the jungle ruled the dark forest. The strong devoured the weak. This was exactly why he got hit so hard. He let his guard down, never expecting a girl like her would attempt to kill him for such a trivial reason. Sure Yan's mind was suddenly crystal clear. The remaining profound qi inside of him gradually gathered around his wounded chest and began to heal him. With his profound qi moving around his body, the searing pain lessened. Mo Yenyu footsteps echoed through the wet ground. Sure Yan jumped up nervously, calmed his mind, and looked straight at the girl walking slowly towards him. You intended to kill me. Still breathing. Mo Yinyu frowned slightly and stopped about 25 meters in front of Shiryen. She took a curious but careful glance at him and thought, there's profound qi inside of him, a novice warrior. I should have hit him harder. Shiryen was serious this time, with no more teasing or jokes. He focused his attention on the girl because he knew that she'd strike again soon. He could feel his qi was more concentrated than ever. This was a matter of life and death. He couldn't afford any mistakes. Sure, Yin quickly adjusted himself and returned to the cool-headed state he always maintained during his extreme sports. At that moment, he couldn't feel any pain in his chest. He could feel nothing but the weak, profound qi flowing through his body and rushing through his veins. It kept getting faster and faster. The next moment, a wild surge of energy erupted from the deepest corner of his body. The feeling was mind-blowing. He felt like his brain had exploded. After that, the whole world suddenly became silent. Badump! Badump! Sure, Yen could hear his own heartbeat loud and clear. With his heartbeat racing, the cells throughout his whole body were activated. Every inch of his body became sensitive and he could feel everything taking place around him. He could even feel the slightest tremor on his skin when a light breeze brushed against his body. The strange energy started to spread from every pore of his body, pouring into his veins and bones. It felt like endless electricity was speeding throughout his entire vascular system. After an acute pain in Shiryan's eyes, the world in front of him became incredibly colorful and vivid. He was able to see the tiniest details on every leaf. He looked at the beautiful but cruel woman, feeling her profound qi flowing underneath her skin in a beautiful rhythm in her veins. The forest was still the same, but to his eyes, it was like a completely different world out there. Before Shiryen could enjoy this wonderful feeling, he suddenly sensed that the profound qi inside the woman's body was flowing at twice as fast as before. Sure, Yin could even feel his nerves trembling. Subconsciously, he pushed his left foot off the ground with all the force he had. With a strong power rushing out of his foot, Sure Yin quickly moved 3 meters away from where he was standing. Another green blaze in the shape of a dagger grazed his side. The green lightning cut everything by his side with a terrifying force. This time the attack was much more precise and stronger than the previous strike. Sweat covered Shiryan's back. He couldn't help but get excited. Sure, Yen suddenly realized that this type of fight, which could kill within seconds, was the most exciting and thrilling thing ever. He enjoyed this more than any kind of his extreme sports. In the old world where he came from, there were all kinds of extreme sports available. However, he was bound like a prisoner in a cage of law, moral codes, and rational thinking. He couldn't do things without boundaries. He couldn't fully indulge in his passion, couldn't go beyond the boundary of law and moral codes. But here, in this world where only the powerful ruled, nothing was prohibited. Nothing was impossible. Sure, Yen suddenly felt the excitement growing inside of him. He felt this might be the right place for him. This might just be his paradise. Hey! Mo Yinyu couldn't hide her surprise. She didn't expect Shiryen to evade this attack. She was sure that he would be torn to pieces by this strike and didn't prepare for Plan B. Hearing her voice, Shiryen, who was still enjoying his survival, had just now come back to his senses. Without hesitation, Shiryen jumped up like an agile monkey. He grabbed a vine on a tree and swung himself forward. He then grabbed another vine with lightning speed, flew forward, and reached for the next vine. In a series of smooth movements, he managed to approach Mo Yenyu within seconds. When he was bouldering, the vines on the mountain were indeed a handy tool. For an extreme sports enthusiast like Shiryen, swinging with the support of vines was like child's play. Like a wild monkey, Shiryen quickly moved through the vines and trees. He didn't follow a specific pattern, but still managed to approach Mo Yenyu. With a scorn on her face, Mo Yinyu shot more and more green light daggers into the sky, destroying every vine in the direction of Shi Yan. However, he was able to escape her attacks by a hair's breadth every time and quickly grasp another vine. The truth was, Shi Yan could already sense the movement of qi in Mo Yinyu's body. Everything was crystal clear to him now. When he saw a surge of profound qi underneath her skin, he would quickly move in another direction. During his movements, Shi Yan started to feel that the blood in the pool had changed him somehow. He was not that strong before, but now not only did the high-intensity movements not tear him apart, they made him even more sensitive and agile than ever before. His senses became sharper, and his body became stronger and more flexible. Swish! With a loud noise, a sharp green lightning flew towards him, tearing apart dozens of vines behind him. Apparently, Mo Yinyu almost exhausted her profound qi after such strong attacks. This is my chance. Shi Yan suddenly jumped down from the trees and took Mo Yinyu in his arms like a greedy eagle. Before she could gather enough profound qi to strike back, Shi Yan was already on top of her. Boom! Mo Yinyu fell on the ground with Shi Yan on top of her, tightly bringing her body under his control. Face to face, Shi Yan could feel her soft body more closely. Her plump breasts felt so delicious and fragrant. He squeezed the buns up close to his burning chest. Shi Yan felt unspeakable pleasure, while secretly appreciating the woman's body. What a piece of art! Unlike the ordinary women from his old world who used bras to look sexy and plump. Let go of me. Mo Yinyu expressed her disgust, but didn't really struggle. She cursed, if you want an easy death, fucking let go of me right now. Bitch! Shi Yan sneered, you almost fucking killed me. Why should I let you go so easily? Mo Yinyu suddenly became nervous. Before she could do anything, she felt this creep's kiss on her beautiful and sacred face. At the same time, the bastard's hands didn't rest either. Shi Yan was touching her ass and began to rub it in an insatiable way. Mo Yinyu flew into a rage. The martial spirit inside of her exploded with a terrifying power. Shi Yan, who was still enjoying this wonderful feast, suddenly felt a horrible electric current flowing through her. He was instantly electrocuted as if he had been struck by a taser. Shi Yan couldn't feel his own body anymore, nor could he gather any qi inside his body. Mo Yinyu pushed Shi Yan away. Her eyes were cruel and icy. She glanced at Shi Yan, who was lying on the ground for a while, and cursed again. I won't let you die that easily, you bastard. Mo Yinyu picked Shi Yan up like a feather, passing through the forest towards the crowd with a cold face. Chapter 4 Guinea Pig. Chapter 4 Guinea Pig. Tall trees formed a huge umbrella above a small river, beside which was a dragon drinking water, carrying several bags. 10 strong, tall warriors were dining and talking lewdly near the dragon. Behind the dragon, a group of malnourished men were crouching and having a coarse meal. They were all wearing chains, their eyes dim. In a sedan chair on the dragon, a poker-faced thin old man was sitting motionlessly. He was wearing a black robe embroidered with 5 white cauldrons on his chest. He kept staring at the warriors and the chained men. Every warrior was frightened and turned silent once the old man looked upon them viciously. Are you done? Then move your ass and walk. Mo Yinyu showed up from the bush with a rigid face, lifting Shi Yan up in her hand. The warriors wrapped up their unfinished meal and were embarrassed. Yeah, we're done. We're done. Mo Yinyu went up to the old man and showed an unwillingly smile. Master Karu, have you finished your meal? The old man nodded coldly and murmured, Miss Mo, it will still take 3 months to get to the merchant union. However, we have only 16 medicine slaves left. I'm afraid we won't make it. Do not worry, Master Karu. We will catch more medicine slaves for you. Mo Yinyu threw Shi Yan onto the ground and laughed. Look, a new slave! Karoo nodded as he examined Sher Yen with his evil eyes. Too skinny. He won't even survive a week. He frowned. Yes, I know, but he has profound qi in him, Mo, Yinyu explained. He is a warrior. Apparently Karoo was now interested, and his eyes lit up. Definitely. Mo Yinyu confirmed. That is good. Master, Karoo smirked. He continued to focus his eyes on Sher Yen. After quite a while, he nodded slowly. Very good. Miss Mo, feed him. I want him to be strong first. A severely injured warrior cannot bear what I am going to do. It would be a total waste if he died through the course of my medicine when he is still too weak. Do not worry, Master. Mo Yinyu wore her rigid face and scolded. Johnson, what are you doing there? Shackle this man as soon as possible. Yes, ma'am. This bald, fat man appeared to be 6'6". He took out a new set of shackles from the bags on the dragon and swiftly shackled Sher Yen's hands and feet. This giant wore heavy armor, and his robust muscles looked extremely powerful. The heavy dark armor seemed as light like a feather and didn't affect him whatsoever while he was moving. Johnson, take care of him, and always keep an eye on him. Mo Yinyu glared at Sher Yen in hatred and rushed to the head of their caravan, not bothering to waste one more second on him. I can handle it, miss. I'm the best at it. The bald man chuckled cunningly and reassured her, punching his chest. Sher Yen observed silently despite his body hurting all over. He knew it would be useless to say anything at the moment. In this dog-eat-dog world, morals was the last thing one should believe in. He will receive no pity and would only become a skeleton, and if he didn't adapt to this world soon. As the profound qi flowed slowly within him for a while, Sher Yen felt less pain. However, the newly added shackles were like a mountain on his exposed and feeble body, making every step much harder. Bang! Sher Yen suddenly got lashed by a whip, which was so fast and powerful that his back was cracked open and ached badly. He turned around to see the big man Johnson, smirking with a whip in his hand. Damn medicine slave! Move faster, or do you want one more lash, huh? He laughed with an evil smirk on his face. Sure, Yen gazed at him for a few seconds and didn't reply. He staggered towards the medicine slave in front of him before Johnson could lift his whip again. Every step consumed a lot of energy. After Sher Yen moved forward, Johnson's smirk disappeared and was replaced by a weird expression. Along the way, many stumbling slaves had been taken care of by Big Johnson, who was famed for his brutality. 2 slaves were even beaten to death by him before Master Karoo could even test his medicine on them. All of the medicine slaves looked at him with either fear or hatred. However, this man didn't show the slightest hint of fear or hatred. There was only an incredible silence, cold and solemn. This man didn't seem to realize his status as a prisoner. Maybe he didn't clearly understand the situation. The solemn eyes gave Johnson the illusion that he was prey. This made him uncomfortable. However, since Sher Yen had begun obediently marching, Johnson couldn't find a reason to make a fuss. He swore to himself that he would force Sher Yen to be frightened of him. Big Johnson enjoyed the sight of others' frightened eyes so much. He found an interesting pleasure in being in control of the life of another. In the following days, Sher Yen stayed mute and obedient. He obeyed every order that was given by Johnson without any resistance. No change of temper, no interest in anything. Sure, Yen was different from the other medicine slaves. Even Johnson, who was always waiting for a chance to give him a lesson, couldn't find any excuse to trick him. Sure, Yen was unbelievably cooperative. Johnson was confused. Sure, Yen only talked when he asked for food, which was under Master Karoo's permission. In no time, the warriors noticed that Sher Yen had a big appetite, and he enjoyed the inferior food. He ate what 7 medicine slaves ate as a first meal, and day by day he ate more and more. The warriors couldn't believe their eyes. How could that weak, skinny body contain so much food? At the beginning, they worried that he couldn't digest it, but it soon turned out to be unnecessary. It was clear that Shi Yan had not only digested the inferior food, but also grown much stronger. The changes in Shi Yan's body pleased Master Karu significantly. This cunning old man allowed Shi Yan to eat as much as he wanted. As Shi Yan grew stronger day by day, Johnson gradually became worried. Every time he looked into Shi Yan's solemn eyes, Johnson got the premonition that Shi Yan would be a calamity in the future. But still, he couldn't go against Master Karu's order and had to supply Shi Yan with enough food. Nevertheless, Johnson knew who Master Karu was and what he could do. Thus, he was relieved and hoped Master Karu would take action soon. After eating enough for 12 people, Shi Yan put down his bowl, licked the last grain of rice from the corner of his mouth, and closed his eyes, neglecting the dumbstruck medicine slaves beside him. That huge amount of food was soon digested in his body, which was like a bottomless pit. It was also like a precise machine that transformed the food into nutrition, supplying his blood, bones, tendons, muscles, and inner organs, strengthening his weak body secretly. The injury on his chest had long since recovered. It took only a day and a half and didn't leave a scar. He felt like was a different man. Only Shi Yan knew precisely what had happened to his own body in such short time. He could sense the transformations occurring within himself every second. While the nutrition from the food strengthened his body, the weak, profound qi inside him had also risen by a level during its continuous circulation. Shi Yan could feel a great strength now, and the heavy shackles didn't weigh him down anymore. As he concentrated, he could tell the qi was flowing from his dantian up to the governor vessel, down the reception vessel, and then balancing the water and fire in the heart and kidney. After it completed a small circulation, his profound qi grew stronger. Thanks to a little knowledge of qigong, Shi Yan knew the difference between a small circulation and a big circulation. A small circulation only included the governor and the reception vessels, while a big circulation contained the 12 channels and the other 6 vessels. Since there were only 2 vessels, the governor and the reception vessels, which were open among his 12 channels and 8 vessels, he could only complete a small circulation. From the other Shi Yan's memory, he concluded that only warriors of the elementary level could open all the channels and vessels to conduct a big circulation. Shi Yan carried on, for he believed that as long as the profound qi residing in him was strong enough, he would open his channels and vessels sooner or later. One more death. 2 slaves have died from the medicinal trials in just 6 days. I saw that. That guy had already grown weak before he died. Terrible. Hideous. It's better to commit suicide than die that way. We will die that way too. There is no hope in sight. No suicide, no. Our family won't get a single blue crystal coin if we commit suicide. Alas, endure it. We will be free if we survive half a year and get some money. We must endure until we make it back to our wives and kids. Hearing this, all the medicine slaves went silent. They decided not to commit suicide and made up their minds to carry on. Chapter 5. Lightning Martial Spirit. Chapter 5. Lightning Martial Spirit. Shi Yan opened his eyes, staring at the medicine slaves at a distance. Those slaves mostly came from poor families. In order to survive, they had no choice but to sign the contract with Mo, selling themselves as slaves. If they were lucky enough to survive the first 6 months, not only could they regain their freedom, but they would also get paid 200 purple crystal coins. If they were unlucky and died from medicinal trials, their family would receive the money instead. In the Grace mainland, 1 black crystal coin was equal to 100 purple crystal coins, which equaled 10,000 blue crystal coins. The annual income of an average citizen was merely 5 to 6 purple crystal coins. 200 purple crystal coins were almost the savings for 40 years of work in another job. Upon signing the contract, their family would receive 50 purple crystal coins on the spot, with the rest paid within the next 6 months. If something unfortunate happened, their family would be compensated regardless. It might take someone's entire life to make 200 purple crystal coins, but for the medicine claves, all it takes is 6 months of painful suffering. It was all worth it. At least that was what they thought. However, when they signed the contract, it never occurred to them that the medicinal trials would be so cruel and tormenting. Every few days, some of them would drop dead in the most horrible way. This made them so terrified that they began to make their own secret plans. But a contract was a contract. Once they signed their name on it, there was no way out. This meant, for the next 6 months, the Mo family owned their lives. Any attempt to disobey the contract or escape from the Mo family would be a death sentence. There is no such thing as a free lunch. It was already too late for them to recognize the danger of these medicinal trials. They had no choice but to accept all the pain as well as their miserable fate. Shi Yan knew that none of these slaves would make it. Sooner or later, they were going to die. Maybe tomorrow or maybe later. He knew he was powerless to change all this. Therefore, he avoided contact with these slaves, thus avoiding any hurtful feelings when they died. Shi Yan frowned as he took a quick glimpse at Master Karu sitting in the sedan atop the ground dragon, trying his best not to be discovered. There were 5 white medicine bottles embroidered on Master Karu's chest, which meant that he was a level 5 mortality alchemist. In the Grace mainland, an alchemist was even more distinguished and rare than a warrior. Every alchemist had to be a warrior. The medicine they refined could help enhance a warrior's capability. There were special pills refined by a small number of extraordinary alchemists, which could even enhance a warrior's martial spirit. Compared to the 10 levels among warriors, the ranking of alchemists were based on their expertise in the field of medicine. There were 5 categories of alchemists in the Grace mainland: mortality, mystery, soul, royalty, and divinity. Under each category, there were 7 sub-ranks. Every alchemist would carry a special token corresponding to his ranking. Alchemists of the mortality category would be embroidered with white medicine bottles on their chests. Mystery category, red flames. Soul category, medicinal herbs. Royalty category, wonder pills. And divinity category, medicinal cauldron. There were 5 white medicine bottles on Master Karu's chest, so it was clear that he had the expertise of a level 5 mortality alchemist. Since the medicine provided by alchemists could enhance the profound chi inside a warrior, this small group of people held a prestigious status among all warriors. Due to the low number of alchemists, every group were desperate to hire a good alchemist, which made the alchemists even more revered and exceptional. As a level 5 mortality alchemist, Master Karu was invited by Mo Yinyu from Medicine Valley within the God-blessed empire. Like the Shi family, the Mo family were also one of the 5 distinguished families of the Merchant Union. The Mo family were famous for their own martial spirit, which had the power of lightning. A lot of people from the Mo family were naturally born with a lightning martial spirit, which would improve with the growth of their own skills. Mo Yinyu was from the youngest generation of warriors born with the lightning martial spirit from the Mo family. The Mo family were working in the medicine business within the Merchant Union. They never stopped searching for great alchemists for their own use, no matter where these alchemists came from. However, most alchemists had quirky personalities and had weird demands. Above all, they were the haughtiest people on earth and held very high opinions of themselves. Therefore, very few of them would accept the influence of powerful families like the Mo family, and thus the Mo family had tasted more failure than success when recruiting these alchemists. Although Master Karu was merely a level 5 mortality alchemist, the Mo family had exhausted every means to convince him. Nobody knew what Mo Yinyu had offered this time in order to persuade Master Karu to leave Medicine Valley and come and work for them. However, Master Karu was not the type of person who was fond of the orthodox. He was more interested in crooked ways of applying his skills to make poisons. However, the production of the finest poisons required a huge amount of medicinal trials, and the subject must be a living, breathing human. This was why these medicine slaves existed. Let's move. With Mo Yenyu's order from the distance, the resting warriors all stood up and got ready for the march ahead. The medicine slaves resting on the roadside also quickly got up, for fear of the punishment they would face if they didn't manage to keep up. Shiryen stood up, still and silent. He took a sniff at the woman, who had the appearance of an angel but the heart of a scorpion. He had no choice but to follow the group before him obediently. In the Merchant Union, the relationship between the Mo family and the Shi family was not that smooth. The fifth uncle of Mo Yenyu was killed by Shi Yang 3 years ago due to a dispute over the mining rights at a mountain. After that, the Mo family started a relentless vendetta against the Shi family, causing the death of dozens of Shi family members. With this kind of hatred rooted between these two families, there were endless conflicts and fights going on. Shiryen understood that death would be his fate if his true identity was ever discovered. But luckily, the original owner of his body kept a low profile. He was not endowed with a martial spirit, didn't take much interest in the martial fights, and barely showed up to any martial activities organized by the Merchant Union. Therefore, there was no way that Mo Yenyu would ever recognize him. Otherwise, Shiryen wouldn't have been this lucky. As night fell, the moon was like a silver plate floating in the dark sky, accompanied by several sparkling stars. The Mo family troop was camping and resting by the river. The ground dragon was resting quietly with only the sound of its heavy breathing permeating the air. The Mo family warriors were gorging themselves on dried meat and laughing aloud in a perverted way, exchanging gossip about some notorious whores in a Merchant Union's brothel. When Mo Yenyu was not looking, a few audacious warriors would gaze at her sexy body in secret, lusting after her body. They knew that for people of their level, Mo Yenyu was way out of their league. All they could do was fantasize. Shiryen sat down in silence. When he was ready to circulate the profound qi inside his body, he noticed Mo Yenyu and Master Karu coming towards him from the front of the troops. Shit! Shiryen felt that something bad was going to happen. His face suddenly looked like hell. The gut-cutting poison is way too strong for normal people. It has already killed 6 slaves within the past 2 days. I guess only warriors can sustain its influence. That boy looks better than before. With much of his profound qi recovered, he can be our new lab rat. Master Karu said with a viperous smile on his face and a bowl of some black sticky liquid in his left hand. The stronger the subject is, the longer and more painful this decaying process will be. Just wait for the grand show and enjoy. Master Karu burst into wild laughter, as if Shiryen were not standing right in front of him. That is perfect. Mo Yenyu smiled in consent. Her eyes were obviously shining with excitement, her hatred of Shiryen churning in her gut. It was only a matter of time before the two of them finally arrived in front of Shiryen. Master Karu didn't even bother to explain. He handed the bowl of black sticky liquid to Shiryen and ordered with a cold voice, "You, finish this!" While Mo Yenyu took out her left hand, generating a snake of electric power circling around her fingers, her skin like porcelain and the electric power sparking like lightning. This was the perfect combination of the lightning martial spirit and profound qi. The energy was like a catalyst in the air with sound of small explosions all around. Woohoo! Johnson sneered from behind. Boy, if you ever dare to resist, you know what's going to happen to you, right? Master Karu couldn't contain his excitement. He clapped his hands and shouted, "Hey boy, the gut-cutting medicine is lots of fun. You are going to decay from the inside, little by little." The whole time, Mo Yenyu was staring at Shiryen with an icy expression on her face. She assumed that he would say no. Her plan was, as soon as Shiryen showed any disobedience, She would kick his ass with the electric sparks on her fingers, showing him who was the boss here. For days, every time she looked back on the humiliation she received from this man, she couldn't help but rage inside. Even her fiancé wouldn't dare to do that to her. Who the hell was this guy? How dare he? She would never forgive this guy. Sure, I'll do it. Sure, Yen said dismissively. He took the bowl of nasty medicine and drank up with no hesitation. Purple crystal coins, money in the Grace mainland. The Mo family, one of the biggest and most powerful families in the Grace mainland, famous for their lightning martial spirits. Mortality, mystery, soul, royalty, and divinity. 5 categories of alchemists. Chapter 6, Immortal Martial Spirit. Chapter 6, Immortal Martial Spirit. As the gut-cutting poison went down into his stomach, Shiryen could feel a dull pain spreading inside. Then his gut and stomach was corroded little by little as if he drank sulfuric acid, and the pain inside his body gradually grew stronger. This gut-cutting poison is potent. It doesn't show its effects all at once, but releases its power gradually. A normal person will be corroded by it in 2 to 3 days, and they will die with a decayed body. Karu narrowed his eyes and added, "No hurry, let's wait for a day and see." "Good. We will check on him at this time tomorrow night." Mo Yenyu nodded. She glanced at Shiryen in satisfaction and left with Karu happily. "Fellow, your good days have come to an end." Johnson laughed loudly, showing his teeth. He suddenly felt quite relaxed when he thought that Shiryen would die in no time, and a heavy burden dropped from his heart. Shiryen lowered his head with an icy glint in his eyes. The gut-cutting poison began to take effect in his stomach and gut, which Shiryen could sense clearly. It felt like tens of millions of ants were nibbling at his stomach and gut in order to compete for territory. The profound qi in the lower part of his belly circulated quickly into the gut and stomach. It was like a gentle stream, quietly washing away the drug under Shiryen's control. Wherever the profound qi went, it made the drug effects milder. Thus Shiryen became a little relieved. As a moist breeze blew softly, Shiryen took a large, deep breath. He sat down where he was, not paying any attention to Johnson beside him, and concentrated his mind to guide the profound qi to fight against the drug. The profound qi, which had been growing much stronger recently, became Shiryen's lifesaver. It kept moving in his stomach and guts. Every time it made a circle, the effects of the drug was softened a little, and his body was not corroded any faster. At that moment, Shiryen realized what benefits profound qi could bring, and was determined to train hard to be a top warrior with strong profound qi. If profound qi could bring such great benefits, how much more powerful would a God-blessed martial spirit be? If I could possess martial spirit, I could definitely be much stronger and would feel less pain. For a moment, Shiryen regretted that the owner of his body didn't inherit the petrification martial spirit of the Shir family, or he could have plucked up his courage and fought against Mo Yenyu. Maybe he could have won against her lightning with petrification and escaped without being made into a guinea pig. Time passed by, and soon it was late at night, the moonlight bathing the land in its silver light. The warriors became quiet since it was an exhausting day of marching. They found a comfortable place and sat down, respectively, training their profound qi in order to break through the limits of their bodies and entering higher levels and gaining stronger power. The medicine slaves looked up at the dark sky one by one. In the silent night, they tended to become homesick and scared. They would be filled with hopelessness whenever they thought about the fact that they could be a dead body the following day after the next medicinal trial. Under the pale moonlight, Shiryen sat cross-legged on the ground, a dignified expression appearing on his serene face. After 5 hours of circulation, the profound qi had prevented the gut-cutting medicine from rapidly diffusing. Nonetheless, unknowingly, he realized that his profound qi had been consumed by 1/3, and was continuously being depleted. But the gut-cutting poison didn't seem to fade. On the contrary, it was still quite potent. The gut-cutting medicine was waiting for the profound qi to run up, and it could fight back. Sure, Yen suddenly felt a severe, cold shiver all over his body. Once his profound qi had dried up, he would have nothing to protect himself with. The effects of the gut-cutting poison, his body would start decaying from the inside out continuously. He couldn't do anything about it. He could feel his profound qi was depleting faster. But in this situation, he couldn't gain that he was getting closer to death's door. Once he took away the profound qi and his stomach ran out, his insides would corrode, poison would gain strength die quickly and made him die faster. The corrosion would spread throughout his body. He could do nothing but wait for it to happen. 5 or 6 days, even if it meant death and die. 2 more just hours like every other medicine slave. Shi Yan was unyielding. With a cold glare, he stared at Mo Yanyu, who was sitting on an old tree far away. Under the bright moonlight, Mo Yanyu sat upright on a thick tree with a serene face. Her skin was like frost, while her long hair swayed with the wind. A spirit in the dark night. She didn't notice Shi Yan's cold eyes as she was wholehearted training and nourishing the vessel which contained her lightning, martial spirit with profound qi. Master Karu was at the end of the troops. He stood against another ancient tree and was carefully reading a book about poison in his right hand, his left hand in his cuff. Now and then he looked in the direction of Shi Yan with a slippery smirk in the corner of his mouth. I can't let it go like this. Shi Yan thought with knitted brows. He operated the profound qi and at the same time pondered on the ways to solve his dilemma. If it went on like this, his profound qi would dry up before dawn and he would die without any doubt. He couldn't change anything even if he ran away, for the drug was in his body. The only solution was Master Karu. He invented the gut-cutting poison. Thus, he must have the cure for it. He could change his destiny of a decaying death only by getting that cure from Master Karu. Yet, Master Karu was not only an alchemist, but also a warrior of the nascent realm. It was suicide if he tried to grab the cure from him. Shi Yan observed him for a while. He found that although Master Karu was reading, he was also looking in his direction every now and then. Apparently, he was not against taking precautions. He might have even figured out what Shi Yan would do and was waiting for him to take action. Several ideas flashed through his mind. Shi Yan knew that there was almost no possibility that he could succeed. Yet, he had to turn to Master Karu and take action soon, because it would become impossible to survive if his profound qi ran out. Shi Yan adjusted his breath secretly, and despite the poison in the stomach, he drew the profound qi back and prepared to fight. As expected, the gut-cutting poison became stronger and spread faster after the profound qi was drawn back. He was attacked by a wave of agony throughout his body. Just as Shi Yan was about to attack, he felt a sudden change in the corroded part of his gut. The cells there came back to life. A weak power wove through the corroded areas as if an invisible hand was sewing up his gut and stomach. Shi Yan was stunned. Although he was fully prepared, he didn't rush out irrationally. He quickly calmed down and concentrated on observing the changes inside of his body. His cells were full of life, while the rotten flesh twitched slightly and recovered gradually. After half an hour, the rotten parts had recovered and the pain had disappeared. A bolt flashed through Shi Yan's body, and he was ecstatic in his heart. However, his face still looked as calm as a lake, as if he was deep asleep. Every ability that could operate without profound qi must be a special martial spirit. The description of a martial spirit dawned on Shi Yan at that time. Pondering on it for a while, Shi Yan was assured that it was a special martial spirit that brought about the changes to his body. Self-recovery of the body is a special ability which hadn't been discovered by people. The gut-cutting poison took effect again. Without profound qi as his defense, Shi Yan's insides started to rot again. But magically it happened again. With his cells full of life, the rotten part recovered in a short period of time. Chapter 7, the second sky. The effect of the drug. Chapter 7, the second sky. And the next morning before the sun rose, with a
But
layer
every
of
time
fog still
the
around.
self-recovery martial
The troops
spirit
had already
activated
gotten ready
and
for the
cured
path
it
ahead.
before next round of
Sure,
corrosion.
Yen was mingling
A
among
martial
the medicine
spirit
slaves,
increased in strength,
maintaining
as
a
the
calm
level of the
expression
warrior
and
increased.
behaving as normal. And sometimes
As
it might
usual,
undergo
he
a
marched
special
in
change.
silence with the troop.
The higher the level of a
Johnson
warrior,
was very
the
surprised
stronger
to see
the abilities
Sher
their martial
Yen's
spirit
so
calm
showed.
and peaceful.
Another definition
He was wondering
of a
when
martial
Sher
spirit
Yen was going to
appeared in
go
his
belly
mind.
up like the other medicine slaves before him. In the past few days, every single one of those medicine slaves who took the gut-cutting poison would wake up with a pale face and a weak body the next morning, with no exception. For the weak ones, they could barely walk. For the strong ones, you could clearly see the pain and terror on their faces. However, Sher Yen was still walking. His face looked healthy with a rosy color in his cheeks. He didn't look like he was in pain at all, which made Johnson very confused and curious. Johnson stared at Sher Yen for a while. After he made sure that Sher Yen was indeed healthy, Johnson came to the front of the marching troops with a frown. He reported Sher Yan's strange status to Mo Yenyu and Master Karu. Don't panic. Master Karu was very confident of his medicine. That boy is a warrior. He is pretty tough and not that easy to break down. Just wait till the profound chi inside him is depleted. He will be no different from those slaves. I know my gut-cutting poison very well. Okay, you go back there and keep an eye on him, Mo Yenyu said with an expressionless face. Since the two of them were so calm about this news, Johnson had no choice but to obey. He didn't insist anymore. He went back to the back of the troop and continued to monitor every movement of Sher Yen closely as he was told. Master Karu, how long should it take for that bastard to start suffering? After Johnson left, Mo Yenyu started to look worried. The result she was expecting is for Sher Yen to start dying from hellish pain now. The more suffering Sher Yen felt, the more pleasure she would be able to enjoy. Don't worry, it is about time. After the end of the day, the moon replaced the sun and rose in the sky. After the troop had settled, Master Karu and Mo Yenyu overwalked to Sher Yen together. They saw Sher Yen sitting on the ground, stuffing himself with some scraps of food. Master Karu, that guy doesn't look quite, Mo Yenyu said in hesitation. The way Sher Yen was engorging himself in his food was not that decent, but he didn't look to be in pain at all. Master Karu was apparently offended. What? Are you questioning my skills as an alchemist? No, Mo Yenyu said. The power of the gut-cutting poison has already been proven on other medicine slaves. I was just wondering why this guy could survive. Did you forget any ingredients in his dose? Miss Mo, although I am not a top alchemist, I couldn't have made such a ridiculous mistake. Master Karu was apparently offended. He said, If you don't believe in my ability, I can leave right now. Master Karu, please don't. That's not what I meant. I was just wondering why the medicine did not work on him. I didn't mean anything else. Mo Yenyu looked panicked. Master Karu didn't even bother to reply. He rose up from the ground and flew right towards Sher Yen as fast as lightning. Sher Yen kept his head down and pretended he wasn't paying attention. However, deep down he was surprised at the speed Master Karu was moving. He felt lucky that he didn't try to fight against him yesterday. Otherwise, he would have definitely suffered. Apart from being an alchemist, Master Karu was also a warrior of the nascent realm. However, Sher Yen was just a warrior of the elementary realm who only made it to the second sky and could barely operate the profound chi inside his body. His profound chi flowed into Sher Yan's body, circled around his entire system, and returned to Master Karu's fingers. The profound chi of Master Karu was so strong that Sher Yen felt a little overwhelmed with just the circulation of his profound chi, with all his veins aching and burning. Master Karu frowned with doubt. He said in a low voice, It cannot be. The gut-cutting poison is apparently still inside his body. Why is there still profound chi remaining in his body? His gut is not corroded either. He is just a low-level warrior. He cannot have such fine, profound qi. He shouldn't be breathing right now. Sure, Yin just let him grab his arm and didn't fight back. Master Karu, how does he look? Mo Yinyu also arrived. Just wait for one more day. Master Karu said with a cold look. He couldn't figure out what was going on either because he had never considered a martial spirit. For an ordinary warrior like him, there's no way he could possess a martial spirit. Moreover, Master Karu had never heard of any martial spirit that could heal one's body. Although Mo Yinyu also had a million questions, she had no choice but to nod in agreement. She didn't say anything, but stared at Shi Yan for a while with a strange look. Sure, Yin guessed that she was planning something awful for him again. The next night, Master Karu and Mo Yinyu came over to check Shi Yan's body again. They found that Shi Yan was still fine. No decay, everything was healthy. Master Karu looked more embarrassed than yesterday and told Mo Yinyu to wait for one more day. The next night, when the two of them checked again, still nothing. On the fourth night, Master Karu came again. This time he had 2 bowls of gut-cutting poison in his hands. When he arrived, he ordered Johnson to bring another medicine slave called Kuro over to Shi Yan. He commanded the 2 of them to finish the 2 bowls of gut-cutting poison that he had just made. Again, Shi Yan drank it obediently. I made these 2 bowls of gut-cutting poison with the same ingredients. Master Karu added after the 2 of them had finished their bowl of gut-cutting poison. Mo Yinyu said with agreement, if that Kuro's body starts to corrode, it means there's something wrong with this guy's body. I understand you now. Yes, exactly, Master Karu nodded. Just come over again tomorrow night at the same time, and then we will see. At night, Shi Yan sat on the ground, slowly operating the profound qi inside his body with a heavy look on his face. The profound qi was slowing stretching in his body. It became longer and gradually expanded throughout his veins. With a thought, the profound qi gradually became extremely flexible, flowing from one vein to another. As long as he was giving it a command in his mind, the profound qi would move all around his veins, just like a snake. Gradually, the profound qi moved to the index finger of his right hand through the veins in his arm. Shi Yan concentrated and moved the profound qi back into his veins in the arm. Suddenly, his profound qi speed up and rushed towards his right index finger with an unstoppable force, faster and faster. Shoo! There was a strange sound on the tip of his right index finger. With an intense pain, the profound qi forced itself into his index finger. Shi Yan's finger couldn't help trembling, just like the tail of a rattlesnake. The profound qi was now concentrated in his index finger, expanding and pushing around, but couldn't break through the skin on the outside. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't manage to make the profound qi break the skin and leave his body. Who? Shi Yan breathed heavily and gathered his profound qi back into his abdomen, looking pretty disappointed. I failed again, he said in a very low voice to himself. There were 3 stages to the elementary realm. If you could cultivate profound qi, you would have reached the first sky. If you were able to operate your profound qi skillfully and make it circulate through your body with your mind, you would have reached the second sky. If you managed to make your profound qi break out of your skin and into the air, that was the third sky. Now that Shi Yan was able to operate his profound qi skillfully all over his body, he had reached the second sky. In past few days, he had been collecting and concentrating more and more profound qi, trying to force it out of his fingers, hoping to reach the third sky. He had tried many times. However, so far he failed to break the boundary of his skin. It seems that the training of a warrior cannot be achieved overnight. My profound qi is still not strong enough. Maybe I should try again later after I collect and refine more profound qi. After another failure, Shi Yan couldn't help but sigh. Maybe it's due to his dangerous situation. He seemed a little hasty. He knew that by this time tomorrow his body would still be the same, unaffected by the gut-cutting poison. However, that slave called Kuro wouldn't be this lucky. His gut would have already been decayed together with his other organs. As soon as Master Karu saw this, he would instantly figure out that there's nothing wrong with his poison, but the problem was lying inside Shiryan's body. He would know that Shiryan's body was different from the others, and this is exactly where the trouble would begin. There wouldn't be easy life for him from then on. Probably Mo Yenyu would just kill him in case he created some new problems in the future. He wouldn't even wait until tomorrow morning. If Kuro started to show symptoms tomorrow morning, Shiryan's secret would have been discovered instantly. By that time, all the warriors would have been up and would all be paying attention to him. He would have no chance to escape. Looking at the night sky full of bright stars, Shiryan's face became more serious and determined. He knew that if he ever wanted to survive, he must escape tonight. Elementary Realm, the first level of warriors, includes 3 stages: first sky, second sky, and third sky. Chapter 8: The Jade Blade Spider. Chapter 8: The Jade Blade Spider. The moon was like a silver plate hanging on the night sky. The warriors were all training quietly. Mo Yenyu hid herself amongst the foliage of a huge ancient tree, taking long breaths. Master Karu stood against another tree, reading a volume of his poison encyclopedia joyfully. Medicine slaves were lying disorderly on the wet ground behind the ground dragon. Shiryan woke up from training and observed his surroundings quietly in a calculatingly manner. Mo Yenyu was at the head of the troops, while Master Karu at the rear. The two seemed to not care about Shiryan. However, their position gave them away. Apparently, they were both on guard against Shiryan, who was in the center of the troops. Johnson seemed to know that Shiryan would make his move tonight, so he didn't train. Instead, he focused on Shiryan, who was 10 meters away. Once Shiryan made a move, he would notice it and stop him. Too bad. Shiryan thought to himself. He waited for them to let their guard down. As time passed, the bright moon disappeared. Dawn was about to arrive. However, Shiryan hadn't gotten a chance to escape yet, so he was a little anxious. After a moment's hesitation, he decided not to wait and was about to take action. Kaka! Kakaka! At that moment, a strange sound came from afar. Something was heading in this direction, slowly. As the profound chi flew forth and back in his arms, Shiryan's eyes suddenly shone with excitement. Everyone on alert! Mo Yenyu shouted when she lifted herself up from the ancient tree. Staying in a high position, she looked into the distance for a while, then screamed, "A jade blade spider!" All the warriors woke up from their training process. The warriors were all wearing a rigid face. Before Mo Yenyu uttered anything, they took out their weapons and crowded around the ground dragon in a circle, 5 or 6 meters away from each other. Master Karu packed the book away and frowned. He walked up to the ground dragon and ordered in a low voice, "Keep an eye on the medicine bottles on the dragon." "Yes, Master Karu." The warriors responded in unison. The medicine slaves woke up one by one, hearing a jade blade spider was nearing. They were all frightened and ran to the ground dragon. Apparently, they all knew how cruel a jade blade spider was. Jingle! A bunch of keys flew out from Mo Yenyu's hand to land under Johnson's foot. "Johnson, open the shackles on them, or they will be killed by the spider. Hurry up!" Mo Yenyu urged. Johnson picked up the keys and looked up at Mo Yenyu, then pointed to Shiryan, including him. "Yeah, I don't want him to die easily." Mo Yenyu showed no patience on her face. "Kid, be well behaved. I will keep an eye on you." Johnson snorted. He released the shackles on Shiryan first, then walked over to the rest slaves and freed them one after another. "Thank God." As the shackles were released, Shi felt extremely relaxed and smirked in his mind. The Shi family was an aristocratic family with a martial spirit. Although the owner of this body wasn't a warrior, he loved adventures and searching for historic remains immensely. He was also familiar with all sorts of demon beasts. So when Mo Yenyu mentioned the jade blade spider, Shi was extremely happy as he knew his chance to escape was coming. The jade blade spider was a level 2 demon beast, whose 8 legs were as sharp as knives. They liked to wander at night and always appeared in groups of 5 or 6. The spiders were cruel and loved eating humans. Once they came across humans in the dark forest, they would never spare them. Demon beasts were always much larger than humans. They had thick, coarse skin and could move faster than humans. Commoners would either die or be injured whenever they met one. Only skilled warriors could escape. Although the jade blade spiders were a mere level 2 demon beast, they made their appearance in groups of 5 or 6, and normal warriors couldn't move faster than them. Thus it was hard to compete with them. To meet jade blade spiders in the dark forest was a bad situation for anyone, as there was nothing valuable on its body and they were aggressive and moved like the wind. They would start attacking as soon as they saw a human and would never leave without getting something, even ignoring their injuries. Shi approached the ground dragon quietly and stood by the panicking medicine slaves and started to observe what was happening, not in a hurry to escape. "Shit, 8 of them!" Mo Yenyu cried from the tree, frowning with a rigid face. "It will be a nasty fight. Get ready. Remember, do not pursue and attack. The spiders will have the advantage if we retreat into the thickets. Do not fight in there. Kakaka! Kaka!" The sound of a knife cutting the earth approached. Soon, they saw 2 jade blade spiders who were 10 meters long and 1, 5 meters tall. The whole body of the spider was snow white and as large as a bus, with 8 legs like daggers, bright and sharp. The spiders moved their dagger-like legs and advanced extremely quickly and nimbly. They arrived in an instant. Their legs reflected an icy light while moving and easily scared everyone. It was not hard to imagine what tragedy would happen once one was cut by those legs. Seeing the spiders show up one by one, the warriors were all silent. Mo Yenyu had jumped down from the tree minutes ago. She was standing in the front of the troops, getting ready by intertwining her fingers with radiant lightning. Master Karu sat relaxed in the sedan atop the ground dragon with indifferent eyes, not showing any indication of fear. Soon, all 8 spiders appeared. They were not stupid, as they separated and surrounded the ground dragon, and then shooting forth like 8 cars. With a harsh whistling sound, the 8 spiders started the battle at the same time. White legs were raised up into the vast sky. They flew forward at the same time, rushing towards the warriors who were around the ground dragon. At that moment, the air was filled with silver and white knives. The warriors reacted quickly. They thrust their weapons, while deflecting the spider's attack towards the beast's waist and eyes. Everything descended into chaos. The jade blade spiders surrounded the ground dragon. White legs crashed down. Warriors dodged to the left and the right and kept thrusting their weapons. Mo Yenyu broke out her martial spirit. Her hands were twined by lightning and kept radiating, which fell upon the spiders and left them trembling. Sure. One of the warriors sustained a cut on his torso by a spider leg before he could react. His organs spilled out of him along with his desperate cry. He then fell heavily onto the ground. The medicine slaves were so frightened that they couldn't help themselves and hid beneath the ground dragon. Some slaves lost their mind. They ran in between the spider legs in order to escape, but were nailed to the ground by the spider's legs and died instantly. Shi contained himself, his eyes filled with a strange light. He almost didn't move behind the warriors, the shackles ringing with clear sounds. Crack! The warrior in front of Shi, who was of the second sky of the elementary realm, bumped into another warrior while moving. Before he could evade, a spider leg cut through his neck and his head was sent flying. Shi Yan was showered with his blood. Shi Yan's eyes were blurred by the blood. Suddenly, a desire of slaughter broke out in his body. The cyclones in his 720 meridians swirled madly, while a potent strength welled out of the meridians. The headless body of the warrior was spurting out blood, an air current which could only be sensed by Shi Yan, which was filled with despair, anger, and regret, seeped into every pore on Shi Yan. It flowed along his veins until it reached all of the 720 meridians. In a trance, Shi Yan felt as if he was back at the blood pool again, where he had absorbed all that blood into his meridians as well. The blood had changed his meridians, produced cyclones, and enlarged their capacity, which accelerated the speed it could absorb the blood. This time, the wisps of air, combined with the despair and hatred of the dead warrior, entered into his body the same way, from the veins to the meridians, in a very rapid speed. The cyclones in his meridians spun hard as if digesting the air currents. Too nefarious. In 10 or so seconds, the air current stopped entering his body. The dead body of the warrior had dried up, as if the blood and profound qi were all sucked out of it, like a dry mummy. The desire to slaughter emerged in Shi Yan's heart. When the 720 meridians spun in his body, the power of despair, fear, and cruelty multiplied as well, which urged Shi Yan to begin a massacre. Swish! A spider leg flew towards Shi Yan's head. Surprised, Shi Yan controlled his urge to kill and moved behind another warrior to escape the strike. Chi! That warrior was blocked by the spider when he thrust his weapon into the spider's eye with all of his strength. The blind spider went insane and brandished its leg, cutting into the warrior's waist. The warrior was cut into 2 pieces and died quickly. After moving near the warrior, when Shi Yan was just about to find a safe zone, things changed again. The absorption power of his meridians erupted again. The air currents of rage and regret from the 2 pieces of the warrior's body insanely rushed into his vein and meridians. In an instant, that warrior became mummified too. Shi Yan was dumbstruck. Without a second thought, he assumed that there was another martial spirit hidden in his body. This martial spirit was based on his meridians and was able to absorb a dead body's power. Shi Yan was frightened by this evil martial spirit. Just then, a jade blade spider let out a strange whistle, and the remaining 6 spiders flew back into the thick forest quickly. Apparently, they had noticed that it would be hard to fight with this troop. After 2 of them died, they finally withdrew. Shi Yan's face turned cold. He stopped thinking about that weird martial spirit at once and moved all of his profound qi into his feet. He dashed out with those jade blade spiders as fast as a whirlwind. He could only run away among the spiders. Suddenly, a warm stream welled out of the meridians and into the profound qi inside Shi Yan. His thin qi was twice strong as before. Shi Yan thus gained more confidence and went into a state of ecstasy. He looked back to Mo Yinyu afar, running along with the spiders. He said coldly, "Mo Yinyu, wait and see. I will fuck you one day. Catch him." Mo Yinyu's slim body trembled, her eyes on fire, as she chased after Shi Yan. Master Karu was even faster. The vicious alchemist kept quiet on the ground dragon as if waiting for something. When Shi Yan ran away with the spiders, he jumped up and flew high after Shi Yan like an eagle. "Kid, I've waited for so long." Master Karu smirked in an evil voice while he was still up in the sky. Chapter 9: The Escape. Chapter 9: The Escape. As soon as Master Karu touched the ground, he accelerated like a flash of lightning toward Shi Yan with terrifying speed. The power and strength of a nascent realm warrior was far beyond that of an ordinary elementary realm warrior. Mo Yenyu also chased after him with a killing intent in her beautiful eyes, leaving her own troops behind. She swore to catch Shi Yan and kill him as soon as she got her hands on him. Shi Yan's face turned serious. He concentrated all the profound qi inside his body into the veins in his legs. Every time he took a step on the hard ground, his skinny body would fly forward for 7 or 8 meters. Soon, he was closing in on the giant jade blade spiders. Ka, ka, ka. The jade blade spiders were moving in the wetland with all their 8 legs plugged into the mud. Soon they disappeared into the thicket. Shi Yan followed them into the thick bushes, which were 5 to 6 meters tall. His face was getting more and more nervous. He already forgot how terrifying the jade blade spiders were and kept staring at one of the spiders at front. Once they got into the bushes, the jade blade spiders suddenly slowed down. 2 jade blade spiders suddenly turned around with a strange light in their eyes. They seemed to be annoyed at being chased all the way into the bushes. The jade blade spiders didn't know Shi Yan's intention. Being chased by 3 humans, they probably thought that they wanted to fight. One of the jade blade spiders screamed with a strangely sharp sound. Suddenly, the 4 other jade blade spiders all turned around and looked straight at Shi Yan. Shi Yan still remained calm. He didn't slow down at all, but streaked towards the jade blade spiders with a much higher speed. Shi Yan was more focused than ever. His mind became as clear as a mirror. Suddenly, he had entered that marvelous stage again. Everything around him became so clear to him. He could even hear the low-frequency communication among the jade blade spiders, as well as the fast movements of Master Karu behind him. He couldn't miss anything. Who? With Shi Yan's fast movements, the air around him was split in half, and he soon generated a strong wind around him. He could hear the sound of air flow louder and louder next to his ears. Just as Shi Yan had almost run into those jade blade spiders, he suddenly changed direction in the air and flew past one of the jade blade spiders by a millimeter. It was so close that he almost got nicked by the spider's blade-like legs. Shi Yan soon passed by the group of jade blade spiders and continued running forward with no hesitation. The jade blade spiders were seriously provoked and irritated. The 6 jade blade spiders felt like they were fooled by this man in front of them. They had never felt so humiliated. With a sharp scream, the 6 spiders started racing toward Shi Yan. Master Karu and Mo Yenyu ran into the bushes one after another, but they had lost track of Shi Yan and only saw the 6 raging jade blade spiders. Master Karu suddenly stopped chasing and said with an icy light in his eyes, "That boy must have hidden somewhere in these bushes. Maybe he has run through the flock of jade blade spiders and is ahead of them right now." Mo Yenyu asked with a frown and some uncertainty in her voice. Master Karu sniffed. Even if he is bold enough, he couldn't have survived the jade blade spiders. The 8 spider legs are like meat grinders. This place is the proprietary land of the jade blade spiders. If he did become the target of those spiders, he would have already been killed without a doubt. Yeah, that makes sense. Mo Yenyu agreed with Master Karu. The 2 of them then split up and started to search the bushes for traces of Shi Yan. On the other side, Shi Yan was crazily looking for his way out of the bushes in this dark forest. He was running as fast as he could, but so were those 6 jade blade spiders behind him. Soon the spiders were closing in on him. In this part of the dark forest, there were no tall trees, nothing but low bushes which seemed to be continue on forever. Shi Yan couldn't see the end of them. The bushes were not that strong, and were easily destroyed simply by a scratch of the spider's legs. Therefore, Shi Yan couldn't find a tree to hide or rest. All he could do was to keep running like hell. He really hoped he could get rid of those jade blade spiders behind him. Luckily for him, There was a magical energy spilling out from his meridians which flowed into his veins and mixed with his profound qi. His profound qi was therefore much stronger and more concentrated than ever. Otherwise, he couldn't have possibly kept up this pace for so long, and probably would have been slaughtered by those fearsome jade blade spiders and their sharp legs. With the strong movements of the profound qi inside the veins in his legs, Shuryen felt like they were full of power. Every time he stepped hard on the ground, he would fly up as light as a feather and flew several meters forward. Sure, Yen couldn't help admiring the amazing power of profound qi and was more and more determined to become a great warrior. Sure, Yen couldn't remember how long he had been running for his life, but now he was really exhausted. After such long time running, he could feel the power of the profound qi inside his legs declining sharply, and he was not running as fast as before. As he slowed down, the jade blade spiders didn't. These demon beasts had one of the strongest physiques. They didn't need the support of any extra energy to rampage all over the place. Damn, those 8-legged bastards are really a pain in the ass in the dark forest. The jade blade spiders were drawing closer to Shuryen and were almost upon him. Shuryen's heart was beating like a jungle drum and his back was sweating like a waterfall. According to the situation, he knew that sooner or later he would be captured by those jade blade spiders. By that time, he would have already run out of profound qi and would have no way to defend himself against those giant spiders. Water. Suddenly Shuryen could feel a moist vapor coming from his left side with his sharpened senses. Shuryen took a deep breath and smiled with joy. He suddenly changed direction and rushed towards his left. There is water here. Shuryen concentrated his senses and listened closely to his surroundings. Not surprisingly, only a few minutes after he changed direction, Shuryen could hear the most wonderful sound of water flowing in the distance. Only a few minutes later, a new landscape spread out in front of Shuryen's eyes. There was a large waterfall, with the water curtain disappearing into the deep pool like shooting stars in the galaxy. Some of the falling water sprayed onto the giant rocks on the shore, with water drops spilling and jumping all over the place like pearls and dense water vapor rising above the pool like a net. Splash! Yen quickly jumped into the freezing pool like a swift arrow. He felt instantly relieved and thought that he could finally ditch those jade blade spiders. Splash! 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 However, the 6 giant spiders also followed him into the deep pool, one by one. They were floating above the water like boats. With their 8 giant legs moving around in the water, they swam quickly toward Shuryen. Damn it! There was no time for Shuryen to take a break, and he was absolutely desperate. Seeing those jade blade spiders approaching, he had no choice but to dive into the water and swim towards the bottom of the pool. Yen kept holding his breath and dived deeper and deeper into the pool. He only dared to look up when he was already more than 7 meters under the surface. From beneath, he could clearly see the sharp legs of those 6 jade blade spiders. The spiders were stabbing their legs, which were as sharp as knives, into the water and chopping around. The jade blade spiders were not afraid of the water, and they had no difficulty floating above the surface. However, it seemed they didn't want to dive under the water. The 6 beasts were just blindly stabbing and chopping their legs into the surface, but only the surface. Seeing this, Shuryen was quite relieved. He held his breath and waited patiently in the water. Holding his breath was one of Shuryen's strengths. He had participated in a lot of extreme sports programs like this before, and therefore had rich experience in this. With one breath, he could survive underwater for more than 10 minutes. The jade blade spiders didn't stay long on the water. After chopping their legs for a while with no trace of Shuryen, the 6 giant beasts soon left the pool, one after another. Only then could Shuryen float to the surface. When he saw the 6 jade blade spiders still by the shore, he instantly stopped floating up and started observing those demon beasts very carefully in secret. The 6 demon beasts soon left. Only then did Shi Yan rise to the surface. He took a deep breath of the surrounding damp air and dived back to the bottom of the pool. After exhausting his breath, he would rise again to the surface near one of the giant rocks on the corner of the pool. He repeated this process over and over again, breathing, diving, and rising, breathing, diving, and rising. He was a little worried that those jade blade spiders would come back, but was more worried that Master Karu and Mo Yinyu would find him by following the tracks of those giant beasts. Therefore, he was extra cautious, not willing to come out of the water too soon. At the bottom of the pool, Shi Yan was still holding his breath and doing his own meditation. He started to think about the strange energy he had appeared from his meridians. He remembered that when the 2 warriors died, he happened to be nearby, and it seemed that he had stolen all their profound qi through his meridians. Regardless, he definitely had gotten something valuable from those 2 warriors. When he was running from the jade blade spiders, he could strongly feel a strange energy spilling over from his meridians. This energy was so pure, and when it mixed with his profound qi inside his body, the energy instantly made his profound qi increase much faster, and it almost doubled in minutes. But Shi Yan couldn't figure out why. Could it be that his meridians had absorbed the energy from those 2 warriors, refined this energy into a much more pure and concentrated force, and empowered Shi Yan's own body? Chapter 10. Drag Her Down. Chapter 10. Drag Her Down. At the bottom of the pool, Shi Yan had gradually recovered his profound qi that had been exhausted from running from those jade blade spiders. He had been secretly watching the surroundings of the pool very carefully. He wasn't sure as to whether the giant spiders would come back or whether Mo Yinyu and Master Karu would come here. Just to be safe, he decided to stay in the pool for a little longer, and would only leave when he made sure he was no longer in danger. With the profound qi flowing around his body, Shi Yan felt this short period of resting had already recovered the majority of his profound qi. His senses had become sharper, and he could even hear the wind blowing through the grass and trees on the surface, despite the fact that he was still underwater. Before long, he saw a beautiful figure show up on the shore. She was standing by a giant rock on the shore, probing her surroundings with a cold glint in her eyes. Shi Yan suddenly became nervous and secretly dove 3 meters deeper. He would only swim around in secret when he had made sure that Mo Yinyu couldn't see him from the shore. Shi Yan was moving very slowly, afraid to make any ripple on the surface of the pool. He was very focused, swimming like a fish at the bottom of the pool. He even swam to different parts of the pool, just to make sure there's no danger from different areas of the shore. After making sure that Mo Yinyu was the only person on the shore, he secretly swam closer to the rock by which she was standing. He stayed there for a minute, looking up at the vague figure of the beautiful woman from the water. Shi Yan hesitated for a while, but still kept moving up in the water very slowly. Fucking bastard. Don't let me catch you. Otherwise, I will make you suffer so much pain that you will beg for death. Mo Yinyu was cursing on the shore. Her face was twisted with anger. Splash! Suddenly, something rose up from the water beneath her feet. Mo Yinyu was shocked. Before she could react, one of her beautiful legs was grabbed by something. She instantly felt stunned by a strong wave of energy, and her body weakened and fell into the pool. Boom! She felt her soft abdomen heavily punched by something, and a sharp pain was spreading to her whole body. Mo Yinyu started to sink with a higher speed. She could barely breathe and had already swallowed a lot of water from the pool, which almost choked her tears out. When she finally came to her senses, Mo Yinyu found herself grabbed by someone and dragged to the bottom of the pool in a brutal manner. When she could finally take a closer look, she instantly realized that she had fallen into Shi Yan's trap due to negligence. Oh crap! Mo Yinyu was shocked by this. She knew that she was not a good swimmer, so she wouldn't want to fight with Shi Yan here. She was grabbing the water with both hands, trying hard to float up to the surface to plan her next step. Wanna run? Try me. Shi Yan couldn't help but snort. As soon as Mo Yanyu was dragged into the pool, he could tell that she was not good in the water. At that moment, Shi Yan realized that this was his best shot get revenge for himself and humiliate Mo Yanyu at the same time. How could he let such a great opportunity pass by? With one hand firmly grabbing Mo Yanyu's beautiful leg, Shi Yan kept dragging her down with all his might. His other hand kept pounding hard into her abdomen with a strong fist, determined to make her swallow some more water. Boom! With another fist on Mo Yanyu's abdomen, Shi Yan felt her skin, which was previously soft, suddenly became as solid as a steel. After this hit, she was not frustrated at all, but still working very hard to reach the surface of the pool. On the other side, after the hit, Shi Yan felt an intense pain on his fist. She is using her profound qi for self-defense. However, not long after that smile appeared on her face, Mo Yanyu suddenly turned very pale in panic with a terrible look on her face. With one hand still grabbing her leg like a clamp, Shi Yan started to shamelessly harass her ass and the part between her thighs. This is the most precious and sensitive part of her body. She had not allowed any man to touch or violate it. But now this man in front of her was insatiably groping her thighs as if she were his bitch. Mo Yanyu felt so ashamed she almost couldn't breathe. Just when she was about to burst into rage and fight with Shi Yan, Mo Yanyu found that the silk pants she had been wearing had been stripped down by Shi Yan. He had even torn down her little panties and left her entire lower body exposed in front of Shi Yan's eyes. She had never shown any man this secret part of her body. However, this man had successfully humiliated her in such an outrageous way. Mo Yanyu's mind suddenly went blank. Suddenly, she could feel a big finger forcing its way into her body, and it felt like she was being struck by a bolt of lightning. With a thread of electricity flowing through her body, she instantly went numb in her lower body. There was a warm wave of energy making its way out of her body. Shi Yan also felt shocked, but it didn't feel as good as he thought. He was actually hit by the lightning that came out of Mo Yanyu's body. It seemed that her body would defend herself by discharging a jolt of electricity shock when violated. This lightning had struck him pretty hard, and he suddenly couldn't feel his hands. All of a sudden, Shi Yan had lost his power. At the moment, Mo Yanyu suddenly felt herself much lighter in the water. She realized that Shi Yan had released her. She suddenly regained her senses. Forcing her way through the water with all her might, Mo Yanyu finally rose up to the surface of the pool, filled with grief and indignation. On the other hand, Shi Yan was still floating in the water, feasting his eyes on the $1,000,000 view above his head. He could clearly see the two sexy legs of Mo Yanyu moving around on the pool surface, her ass which had such a nice curve, as well as the delicious parts between her thighs which were apparently his favorite. However, he was affected pretty heavily and couldn't feel any strength right now. He couldn't do anything but let Mo Yanyu keep swimming towards a big rock on the shore of the pool. Before long, Mo Yanyu had arrived at the rock. She grabbed the rock with one hand and screamed with a raging fire burning in her vicious eyes, "You fucking animal! Come out!" Having lost her pants, Mo Yanyu couldn't get out of the pool and still needed to hide her lower body in the water. She couldn't do anything but scream like hell. Her hatred was burning and lightning was dancing around her fingers. She would pay any price to burn Shi Yan into a crisp. After slowly operating his profound qi inside his body for a while, Shi Yan felt his discomfort had been mostly alleviated and he had recovered his strength. Still hiding in the water, Shi Yan stared at Mo Yanyu by the big rock on the shore for a while with a greedy look. He couldn't help licking his lips and fantasizing about the woman's body. Although she had a heart as dark as a scorpion, she had the most attractive look to any man, 1 in a million. He couldn't get enough of her. Now that Mo Yinyu had already set up her defense, Shi Yan knew that it was impossible for him to drag her down into the water again. This woman had achieved the nascent realm for warriors and possessed the scary lightning martial spirit. If she was already on alert, there's no way that he could strike again. If Mo Yinyu kept screaming and shouting like this, it wouldn't be long before Master Karu and the other warriors from the Mo family found the two of them. If he didn't get away now, he probably wouldn't get another chance later. Hearing him saying this, Mo Yenyu's body felt like it was hit by a lightning bolt. She screamed like crazy, "I'm gonna kill you! You bastard! I am so killing you! I swear! I will cut you into pieces!" Shi Yan replied with a snort on his face, "Bitch! I've already tasted your pussy. How are you gonna get married? Kill me? Huh. Next time, you won't be this lucky with only my finger inside of your body." After saying that, he shook his little brother in an exaggerated manner in front of Mo Yenyu's eyes, putting on a teasing smile, and left before she could burst out with rage. Shi Yan quickly disappeared into the bushes. Mo Yenyu was so angry that she could hardly breathe. She fired waves of lightning toward Shi Yan, but the lightning could barely cross the pool, degrading into little electric sparks and disappearing after a few hundred meters, to say nothing of hurting Shi Yan. Gasping heavily, Mo Yenyu could feel her hatred burning in her eyes endlessly. As much as she would like to strike back, her lower body was still naked in the water, so she wouldn't dare to make a move. After a while, after making sure that Shi Yan wouldn't come back, she swam to the middle of the pool to retrieve her pants, which were floating on the surface. "Miss Mo, I remember you were chasing somebody. How come you jumped into the pool to take a nice bath?" Mo Yenyu heard the creepy voice of Master Karu from behind her as she finished dressing on the shore. Startled, she quickly turned around, seeing Master Karu staring at her with two horny eyes. Master Karu was like a starving wolf, staring right at her wet body, which looked so delicious with its beautiful curves. Mo Yenyu was offended, but couldn't say anything to Master Karu. She held back her raging anger and replied mercilessly, "I was dragged down into the water by that motherfucking asshole." "Oh." Master Karu nodded. His greedy eyes still didn't stop roaming over Mo Yenyu's sexy body. He said with a horny smile on his face, "Miss Mo, you didn't let him do things to you, did you?" "Hell no." Mo Yenyu denied with a cold face, "It's just I'm not good with the water." So he took the chance to get away. "Which direction?" Master Karu said with a weird frown, "That guy had the strangest body structure. Even my gut-cutting poison couldn't break him. He was indeed a good trial subject. I won't let someone like him escape." "Then let's not waste any time." Mo Yenyu was already furious. She didn't want to waste too much time with Master Karu and started chasing Shi Yan right away, heading in the direction he disappeared. Once she turned around, Master Karu started staring at her sexy curves with his creepy, cold snake-like eyes. After staring at her wet, plump ass for a while, the beautiful body of Mo Yenyu disappeared into the bushes. Master Karu laughed with a horny smile and followed her with lightning speed. Chapter 11, Strike Back. Chapter 11, Strike Back. A crowd of people had started to gather in the dark forest, which was filled with all kinds of trees and plants. Warriors from the Mo family had separated into groups and were searching for Shi Yan in their designated areas. They all had a depressed look on their faces. Mo Yenyu's face was as cold as ever. She gave her order in a sharp voice, "Go search for that bastard. Now, once you have found any trace of him, set off the blue smoke bomb. Don't fight him individually. It has been 3 days, and we still cannot find that guy, but we keep finding traces of him. Is he that poor at covering his tracks, or has he been intentionally playing with us?" Master Karu said with a sour face, apparently irritated by Shi Yan's tricks. For the past few days, the whole crowd had been looking for Shi Yan in the dark forest. They could occasionally see the footprints and broken tree branches he left behind on his way through. He must have been around this area for days, but no matter how hard they searched, they couldn't find anything, not even the smallest clue as to the whereabouts of Shiryen. Search a bigger area. Mo Yenyu was pissed off and shouted her new order. Start from here and search separately. Do your best. Once you see him, release the blue smoke bomb. I will be there in an instant. The warriors of the Mo family all complied obediently. Is it okay to leave the ground dragon alone? Master Karu frowned and said worriedly, All my medicine bottles are with the dragon. If that boy goes over there to mess with my medicine, he would cause me more trouble than I could handle. Master Karu, don't you worry. The ground dragon is being guarded by Johnson and 7 other warriors. Johnson has already reached the 3rd sky of the elementary realm. That asshole is no match for him. Mo Yenyu said with a proud face. Master Karu nodded in consent. The warriors of the Mo family had moved further and further away, and the members had become more and more distanced from each other. With one hand on the blue smoke bomb, the warriors were not that stressed. As soon as they saw any trace of Shiryen, all they had to do was to set off the blue smoke. Simple enough. One of the warriors was walking in the shade, cursing Shiryen at the same time with an angry face. He looked up at the tree branches above his head, and then checked the bushes around his ankles. They had been searching this area for the past 3 days, all for a junior warrior who had barely reached the elementary realm. There was no trace of him at all. They didn't even believe that he was still in the area. They all thought that Shiryen had already left. Therefore, all the warriors were not happy when they were ordered to search this area again, complaining in secret and thinking that they were wasting their time. There was no point for them to do this. The warrior arrived under one of the aged trees, shaded by all the thick branches and leaves. This time, when he looked up, all he could feel was a chill, cold and evil, pouring down onto him. All of a sudden, Shiryen jumped down from the tree like a fierce wolf, crushing the warrior's face with his knee. Boom! With a strong blow, the warrior's face was instantly covered in fresh blood. He fell on the ground, with his eyes filled with blood and tears. For a moment, he couldn't see anything. All he could do was stab his dagger wildly, shouting in panic, he's over here. Before he could release the blue smoke bomb in his left hand, an intense pain spread from his left wrist. He couldn't stand it and let the blue smoke bomb be taken away from him. Boom! 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 Shiryen put on the cruelest face he had ever made. Before he could realize, his eyes had already turned dark red, and there was a murderous look in his eyes. All of a sudden, a strong wave of invisible energy spilled out of the warrior's body, mixed with strings of emotions such as distress, anger, and panic, all pouring out at once. The energy was quickly absorbed by Shiryen and flowed into his meridians. Within a few seconds, the warrior had lost all his profound chi and turned into a mummified body. Shiryen approached the dead body again. He searched through his pockets with a frown and only found a packet of food and a few dozen purple crystal coins. Shiryen took away his possessions and quickly left the scene. He didn't want to stop in one place for long, making his way swiftly through the dark forest, swiftly like a fox, and soon disappearing into the trees. This was the first time that he had ever taken a man's life. However, he was not at all nervous or panicky. He had remained calm and cool-headed the whole time. When he was stepping hard onto the warrior's face, he felt nothing but an overwhelming thrill, a great satisfaction that he couldn't describe with words. He was free. He felt like he was a warrior by nature and that he was born to kill. The killing had brought him a feeling of euphoria. It was the most wonderful moment that he had never experienced. All the unpleasant feelings that had been haunting him for days were instantly cast away the moment he cut that warrior's neck. Deep down, Shiryen knew this wasn't right, and that there must be something wrong with his body. No normal person would be this calm and steady when killing his first victim. Not like him. Normal people wouldn't feel this kind of thrill or bliss either. However, he was like an obsessed drug addict when it came to murder and killing. As the profound chi from the warrior's body rushed into Shi Yan's meridians, there was again a strong urge of murder flaring up inside his body. Before long, a strange energy poured into his profound chi, making it even stronger and more concentrated than ever. This felt so good. For 5 days, Shi Yan was like a ghost in the dark forest. He was everywhere, always killing and always precise and accurate. The murders all happened in sneak attacks before those poor warriors had chance to release their blue smoke bombs in their hand. Within days, another 3 warriors became Shi Yan's victims. Every time, when their bodies were discovered, they had already become mummified, with all their blood and profound chi sucked away. Mo Yenyu became more and more agitated. She searched and searched around the dark forest with Master Karu, desperate to dig Shi Yan out. Both of them had started to smell a crisis on the horizon. For the first victim, his face was terribly destroyed with a cruel blow to his head, and there were still some traces of a struggle. For the second and third victims, they were both secretly attacked from behind, with several brutal stabs in their hearts and abdomen, with only traces of a brief fight still there. However, for the last warrior, he was killed instantly with a clear cut on the throat, and there was no trace of a fight at all. Judging from the 4 dead warriors, Shi Yan was becoming more and more skilled at killing. The dark forest had become a perfect arena for showing off his talent of murder. He skillfully used the landscape to cover his own tracks. Like an experienced hunter, he was secretly hiding in the forest, watching and waiting for his next prey. The death of those 4 warriors had made the other warriors all very nervous. Mo Yenyu and Master Karu were also starting to take this seriously. As per their new orders, the warriors were not allowed to act individually. They were only allowed to move in groups of 2. This way, if one of them was attacked, the other one could come right over to help in order to avoid the tragedy that had happened before. In the dark forest, on the top of an aged tree, wrapped and covered by layers of leaves, Shi Yan sat cross-legged in silence, looking at those little human figures in the distance through the leaves. Not as stupid as before, Shi Yan sniffed from the inside. He knew it wouldn't be that easy for him to strike and kill now. Sure, Yan didn't rush into attacks. He watched those warriors for a while, and noticed that after the death of the previous 4 warriors, the Mo family warriors had started to act in groups of 2, hence they couldn't cover a search area as large as before. Right now, they were not coming in his direction, but moving away from Shi Yan's location. After making sure that the warriors were not coming his way, at least not in a short period of time, Shi Yan closed his eyes quietly and started to circulate the profound chi inside his body. The profound chi of those killed by Shi Yan over the past few days had all been absorbed by Shi Yan's meridians shortly after they died, and was purifying his meridians and strengthening his profound chi in a powerful way. Sure, Yan started to circulate the profound chi inside his body faster and faster with his mind. He could clearly feel that his profound chi was much stronger than before, rushing through his meridians like an intense lightning all over his body, from his abdomen and all the way to his right arm. Sure, Yan held his breath, cleared his mind, and concentrated all his attention in pouring the profound chi into his right arm. Now, he released this burning energy all at once. The profound chi inside his arm was flowing rapidly towards his right index finger, like wild horses escaping from their reins. Shoot! Some silver-colored light, smoke suddenly shot out of his right index finger, making a strange sound in the air. The light, smoke didn't gather in the air and only lasted for a few minutes before it faded away. Shi Yan opened his eyes, with bright stars shining in his black eyes and a surprised smile on his face. He had successfully managed to push his profound chi outside of his body. This marked him reaching the third sky of the elementary realm. After his rigorous practice over the past few days, he had finally made it to a new level with the help of that strange power inside his meridians. Although the profound chi that was forced from his body was not in a concentrated shape and couldn't make itself into a sharp beam, he would be able to infuse his profound chi into all kinds of killing weapons and could directly rupture the enemy's organs with his profound chi shot, which meant that he had already reached a milestone in his control and operation of profound chi. Chapter 12. The Mysterious Martial Skill in the Blood Vein Ring. Chapter 12. The Mysterious Martial Skill in the Blood Vein Ring. After Yen withdrew the profound chi that had flown out of his body, he set his eyes upon the crimson ring on his left ring finger. This mysterious ring, which he had named the Blood Vein Ring, came from the blood pool and had some connection with it. As he was thinking, he recalled the time when he wore the ring for the first time. Back then, the profound chi in his body was very weak, but the moment he wore the ring, it rushed toward the ring in a wild manner. But since it was too weak then, his chi couldn't flow into the ring across his skin. Now he had already reached the third sky, meaning his profound chi had been strengthened and refined to the point that it could move out of his body. What would happen if his profound chi went into the ring? Yen was curious and guessed that there was a secret inside this ancient ring. Maybe after studying this ring, he could find out the reason why his meridians changed. Through the leaves, Yen observed for a while. 3 warriors from Mo family were moving away from him and would not come back for a short time. Yen decided to give it a shot. At first, the profound chi was flowing slowly in his dantian. Then it suddenly accelerated and rushed into his left arm. His chi moved rapidly, and he felt a numb pain in the veins of his left arm. The chi rushed all the way into the ring finger on his left hand with a crushing force and lashed against the skin under the ring. Like smoke, the profound chi leaked out from between the ring and the skin, making the sound of steam coming out of a kettle, and the pure energy dived right inside the ring in an instant. The blood vein ring let out a crimson light, as if the protective layer of the ring had been ruptured. At this point, a strange energy jumped out of the blood vein ring and flew back into Yen's arm. It went straight up his neck and finally arrived in his mind. Martial skill. The energy coming out of the blood vein ring was a series of memory fragments. This was a strange martial skill. The training procedure became deeply engraved in his mind. Martial skills taught warriors how to operate their profound chi and contained a skill for attacking with profound chi. Just like the ranking for alchemists, it was divided into 5 grades: mortal, profound, spirit, sacred, and god. But there were some differences between the ranking of martial skills and that of alchemists. Every grade of alchemists consisted of 7 sublevels, while martial skills contained no sublevels. High-grade martial skills brought the best out of the profound chi inside a warrior and provided them with an enormous ability to attack. The higher the grade of the martial skill, the better it tapped their profound chi. If a warrior was to train with a high-grade martial skill, he had to reach a high level first. The stronger the martial skill, the stricter the conditions it required. Generally speaking, warriors of the elementary and nascent realm were suitable for training mortal and human-level martial skills, disaster realm for profound and earth-level skills, nirvana realm for spirit and sky-level skills, spirit realm for sacred-level skills, and true god and king god realm for god-level skills. It was a waste of time if a warrior of a lower grade tried to train with high-grade martial skills. If one's grade was too low and their profound chi was not intense enough, one would not succeed in learning a high-grade martial skill. Even if they barely succeeded, he could not use the power of a high-grade martial skill proficiently, as their realm and power would not be enough to sustain them. It was best for a warrior to train with martial skills which matched their warrior realm. For example, Even if a warrior of the nascent realm possessed God-level martial skill, it would be a total waste of time, because he would never be able to train it with his low realm. Conversely, if a warrior of a high realm trained with a low-level martial skill, he couldn't put his power to good use either. If a warrior of the true God realm had only low-grade martial skills of the mortal and profound grade, his ability would be restricted. For if his martial skills were too low for his warrior realm, he could only use 70% to 80% of his ability. On the Grace mainland, martial skills were more treasured than pills from alchemists. They were the most valuable treasure on this earth. Generally speaking, martial skills were controlled by those honorable families and all sorts of forces. It was one of the attractions for warriors. As such, they often joined to those honorable families to have access to them. The higher the grade, the more valuable the martial skill. Warriors of a high realm would be severely restricted if they didn't possess a high-grade martial skill. They would be at a disadvantage, sometimes resulting in them being killed in fights. Thus, in order to acquire a suitable high-grade martial skill, those high-leveled warriors would sacrifice anything. Sitting straight up in the foliage, Shurien sorted out the memories in his mind little by little. After he put those memory fragments in order, he found that the martial skill consisted of 3 levels as well. What got imprinted in his mind now was only the first level of the training process. He had no idea what martial skill grade was, or whether suited him or not. This martial skill leaked out from the blood vein ring and rushed into his mind in a direct, yet weird way. To train in this martial skill, one needed to reverse the flow of their profound qi, which was of the opposite most martial skills. Shurien hesitated. Could he train this incomplete martial skill, whose story was still unknown? As one of the 5 biggest families in the Merchant Union, the Shur family had its own martial skills, the highest of which reached the spirit level. It was regarded as a family heirloom by the family head of Shur family, Shurjian. This old man was the only person who had reached the realm required to train with it. Nonetheless, apart from this spirit-level martial skill, the Shur family also possessed mortal and profound level martial skills. Shurien had decided to return to Shur family and train with their mortal and profound level martial skills with his new identity. But now, the blood vein ring had produced this mysterious and unknown martial skill. He was totally confused. Should he train with it or not? With a rigid face, Shurien tried to refine his profound qi and pushed it into the blood vein ring, only to find his profound qi blocked by a protective screen within the ring. No matter how hard he tried, his profound qi couldn't break the screen. He came to the vague conclusion that there was something behind that protective screen, but he would never know until it was broken. Behind that protective screen, there might be more information about. Most likely, it would be the process of the other 2 levels of training. Sadly, his profound qi could not break that screen until it was strong enough. Helplessly, Shurien withdrew his profound qi from the ring. He arranged the incomplete memory fragments of the martial skill again, but he was still hesitant to train with it or not. Being wrapped in foliage with his eyes shining, Shurien's facial expressions kept on changing. After a very long time, he decided to see what would happen to his body if he trained in the first level of. His profound qi moved towards the Jugu meridian slowly. After it arrived, according to the spinning process of first level of, Shurien slowly injected his profound qi into the Jugu meridian. Instantly, it started to spin rapidly. Negative moods buried in that meridian, such as hatred, despair, and insanity, were all triggered in a burst, which turned into a certain force and began to change the veins, bones, blood, and flesh around the Jugu meridian. All of a sudden, he felt a severe pain. The blood and flesh around the Jugu meridian suddenly contracted, and his muscles became tight instantly. After a quick thought, Shurien began to reverse the flow of his profound qi in no time. An unbearable pain suddenly raced through his whole body and felt that his veins were very nearly torn apart. After it traveled several inches, Shi Yan made up his mind and forced his profound qi up. His profound qi jumped across the Juga meridian and rushed to the Jianjin meridian like an angry beast. After it accumulated in his Jianjin meridian, his profound qi spun just like before, which again brought out those negative moods of hatred, despair, and anger hidden in the meridian all at once. The blood and flesh in that area began to contract again. To Shi Yan's surprise, there was even a vague gray fog rising up from each pore on his shoulder, which was mixed with despair and hatred. Haunting. The profound qi reversed again. Shi Yan felt a splitting pain in his right arm, and his forehead and back were both soaked in sweat. Severe pain. Biting his teeth, the insanity inside Shi Yan broke out abruptly. Despite the pain in his arm, Shi Yan continued to urge his profound qi in the direction of Wuli Meridian. After an unknown passage of time, Shi Yan moved his profound qi all the way from his Juga Meridian to his Yangqi Meridian near his wrist, all while suppressing the desire to vomit. All sorts of negative energy inside the meridians of the right arm seemed to be brought out at once. Examining carefully, Shi Yan found the muscles on his right arm had contracted, so much so that they were much thinner than before. The dim gray fog curled up his arm ceaselessly, conveying those negative moods. Merely by looking at it, one would be easily affected by its power, feeling extremely terrified. The profound qi was moving back and forth in his arm. A strong power which could burst a dam was surging in his arm, combined with all sorts of negative moods. Shi Yan felt enormous power in his right arm, as if it would burst out at any minute. In the bottom of his heart, a series of whims containing killing and cruelty showed up. Breathing heavily, Shi Yan's eyes showed a murderous look. Among the trees, he started searching for targets, viciously like a wolf. How he wished he could grind every person he saw into powder with his right arm. It wouldn't be content until he smashed those people into mud. A short while later, two shadows, along with loud curses, were moving towards his direction slowly. They were both warriors of the Mo family. After searching other places, but finding no trace of Shi Yan, they were sent by Mo Yanyu to search this area. Where is that bastard? I'm going to cut off his head at sight of him. Crap. My mistress is still waiting for me in the Merchant Union. I have wasted too much of my time here because of that bastard. Damn. A stout warrior was viciously cursing, whose face was buried under a heavy mustache. Zhen Tai, be careful. That bastard killed 4 of us. He must be a tough one to deal with. He ate twice what we eat for one meal. So strange. Don't underestimate him. The other warrior looked cautious, and he kept looking around, being more careful apparently. Don't worry. We are both at the second sky of the nascent realm, and we are 2 people. It's asking for death if that bastard tries to attack us. Let us kill him soon so that we can leave. I have enough with this crazy place. I want women. Women. The warrior named Zhen Tai seemed too eager for a woman that he began to shout in the woods. Yeah, well, Miss Mo is a woman too, that cautious warrior mocked in a low voice. Well, Miss Mo is a woman, but she is out of our league. I noticed that Master Karu went to Miss Mo quite a lot these days. Maybe he has a good chance. Look at Miss Mo. That face, that ass, Let's see which lucky bastard could get her. Our level is too low. There is not even a slightest hope in this life. Zhen Tai lowered his voice, wearing a sinister smile on his face. He seemed to be having some fantasy. When it came to a joyful part, he straightened his body and laughed loudly. Stop daydreaming. Miss Mo is already engaged. That Ling Xiaofeng is a very tough guy. If he knew you are fantasizing about her, you would be dead. Upon hearing Ling Xiaofeng's name, Zhen Tai looked panicked. He whispered, that kid is too strange. I have heard that he has almost reached the human realm. I have seen him kill. He is unimaginably cruel. Even Master Karu would not escape if he annoyed Ling Xiaofeng. Seriously, we have to be careful. If he heard what we said. Zhen Tai shivered. Apparently, he was too scared of Mo Yinyu's fiancée. With rigid faces, the two discussed Ling Xiaofeng as they walked toward where Shurian was, not knowing that in the thick leaves above them, there was a bloody
Chapter
beast.
13.
Surprise kill.
Mortal, profound,
Chapter 13.
spirit,
Surprise
sacred
kill.
God.
Sure,
5 grades
in
in
just
martial
one
skill.
hit, his bloodlust,
An ocean of bloody
anymore.
and turbulent
He panted,
profound chi
suddenly
exploded
jumping
out
up
of
from the
Yan's
thicket.
fist.
His
and
profound
drilled
chi
straight into
was
Zheng
flowing
Tai's
in his
head,
right arm like
with
waves
blood
with
all
a
over his
fierce
face,
and violent
as well
killing
as
energy,
a terrified
which
and
was about to
unbelievable
explode
look
from
from
the
the
inside.
inside.
Zheng
Crap.
Tai felt a chill running
The
down
warrior
his
who
body,
had been
and
on
he
alert
collapsed
suddenly
face down on the
paled
ground
and
his
screamed
profound
loudly
chi
for help,
flew out just like
landing
those
on
dead
top of his
warriors
head.
before him. Shurian The started bodies his of the strike two like a warriors sharp sword gradually as his profound
profound
chi
mummies,
formed
without
into
a trace of blood on their
around his
faces.
arms. Ahead of
Drained
him,
of all their
Shurian
profound
cast
chi.
his profound chi out like a net,
Despite
which tightly
all
wrapped
the
up the
fierce
warrior's
bloodlust
head
in an
roaring in
instant.
his mind. In that
Shurian
moment,
retained his
an
rationale
intense wave
and carefully
of negative
checked the
feelings
belongings of those
blended
two dead
with
warriors.
endless resentment.
He
and
collected all the
desperation.
valuable food
Suddenly
and crystal
rushed into his
coins
nose
and climbed
and
into
mouth.
the ancient tree.
The Mo family
like an
warrior
agile monkey.
felt like he was standing
He hid
in the middle
himself
of a
among
bloody
those
ocean
thick
with thousands
leaves
of
of
branches,
evil spirits
and
flying
told himself
towards
to
him,
calm down,
grabbing him with full force
and tearing him
over
apart.
again.
He couldn't
However,
move even if he tried
the crazy desire for
Thump.
blood was still there in his
Shurian's
mind.
iron-like
Shurian
fist
sat
struck
there, the warrior's
started to
skull
operate
with mighty
his
force.
profound chi.
With a clear
The
sound,
profound chi
the
that
warrior's
had been flowing
skull
within his
exploded.
right arm a moment
He didn't even
ago
get to scream
was
before
gradually
he breathed his
maneuvered
last
into his
breath.
abdomen.
All
and
his
his
right
profound
arm had
chi
returned
rushed
to normal
out
and was directly
Shurian
absorbed into
tried his best
Shurian's
to control his
meridians,
breath
and with
the
withdrew
other
the
warrior
flying
named
evil
Zheng Tai
spirits back into
looked
his body.
absolutely horrified.
The killing
and
light
instantly set
gradually
off his
disappeared
blue
from his
smoke bomb.
eyes. The blue
the
smoke
thick
bomb
leaves,
flew up into the sky
Shurian
and
looked at the
exploded
movement
with
on the
shining
ground
blue
in
light
full
even
concentration.
brighter than the sun.
Before long,
Look,
a
over
crowd
there
started to gather
Seeing
under
that
the
blue
tree.
light,
The first
Mo
two
Yinyu
were also
suddenly got
warriors from
excited.
the Mo family.
She turned around
like Zheng Tai,
and quickly
they were
flew
also
towards
elementary
that
realm
direction
warriors
with
that
no
had
hesitation.
reached the second sky.
Master Karu
and
didn't
couldn't
move
push
at
their
first.
profound chi
He sneered
out
for
of their
a
body
moment,
yet.
and then
They
followed
looked alert
Mo
after
Yinyu.
they arrived.
You
And
bastard!
they kept looking around
Let's
for
see
traces
how you get
of
away this
Shurian.
time.
Afraid
After
he might
releasing
strike
the
again.
blue smoke bomb,
After a while,
Zheng Tai was
Mo
not as
Yinyu
panicky
and
as
Master
before.
Karu arrived
He
one
stared at
after another.
Shurian with burning
Mo
eyes
Yinyu
and
arrived
sneered.
first.
We have been
She
looking
took a
for
quick
you
look
all
at
this
the
time.
two dried bodies
Finally,
lying
you
on
came
the
out.
ground.
This
and
time,
said
where
in a
can you
firm
run
voice,
to?
Yes.
Shurian
It was him.
was breathing heavily.
A cold
with the
killing
bloodlust
light
becoming
started
more
to
and
spread
more
within
concentrated
her
in his eyes.
She moved around,
Shurian could
trying
feel
to find some
endless
trace of
urge
him.
for blood
She
within
started
his
to
chest.
study the leaves
That
and
warrior's
branches,
profound
trying to
chi,
figure out
which
whether he
flew
had
into
left or
Shurian's
not.
body after he died.
Before,
had
if
further
Shurian
fueled
tried
this
to
killing
escape,
impulse
he would have broken
within his
some
body.
branches of the tree.
It was as if there was
or
a
left
voice
behind some
whispering
heavy
into
and
his
messy
ears,
footprints,
continuously
in that short
encouraging
time,
him to indulge
there was
in
no
his
way for
desire
him
for
to
blood.
cover his tracks.
Seeing that
Mo
Shurian was
Yinyu
just standing
was right
there
about
panting.
that.
Instead
what
of
a
making a
shame.
move towards him,
Shurian hadn't
Zheng
left at
Tai
all.
felt a bit
He had been
relieved.
hiding in that
He kept his
ancient tree
distance from
all along.
Shurian and
Mo
sneered.
Yinyu searched
Hey,
everywhere,
you, Miss Mo,
but couldn't find
and
a
Master
thing.
Karu will be here
Her
in a
beautiful
moment.
face held
You are
an
going to
ugly
die for
frown.
sure.
Damn it!
With a roar
Fucking
rising
hell.
out of his throat,
There is no trace of him at
Shurian
all.
suddenly flew.
After Master
towards
Karu
Zheng Tai,
arrived, he looked
like a
around with his
caged
shrewd
beast
eyes and
running
suddenly
wild.
looked up and shouted.
There was a beam of white
little
smoke
shit.
surrounding his
Come
right
out of the tree
arm, which
now.
looked just like
You
a
think you
giant
can
snake.
get away with this again?
The snake suddenly
Shurian
jumped out and came
was
right
surprised
towards
by Master
Zheng Tai's
Karu's
reaction.
Zheng
Zheng
Tai
Tai
was
was
already
lose his
prepared.
control.
He
A
didn't
freezing
directly
light
counter
flew
Shurian.
out of his dark
Instead,
eyes.
he moved away from by a
killing
couple
desire
of
that had
meters.
been suppressed inside
However,
of his body.
that snake
was
of white
unleashed.
smoke
was not that
There
easy
you
to get
are.
rid of. It kept
Master
chasing
Karu
Zheng
sneered
Tai
and
as if it was
instantly
alive,
summoned
a creepy
even though
gray bomb in
Zheng
his
Tai
hands.
stepped back.
The bomb was
It didn't
suddenly
give up
thrown
and still
towards
followed him,
Shurian's hiding
intending
place
to
in a
wrap around
flash.
him like a cocoon.
You fucking asshole.
Zheng Tai was a little
Where can you hide
surprised.
this time?
He sniffed a little and
Mo
started to
Yinyu
cut
put
the
on a
smoke
scary
snake
face with a
and
sharp
also
blade in his
struck the
hands.
place where
The white
Shurian
smoke
was
snake
hiding with
was
her
cut
powerful,
into half
mixed
instantly.
with beams
However,
of
it didn't
electricity.
stop.
The two parts of Snake
Sure,
rose up
and jumped
and started
out of
to
the
wrap
leaves.
around both
He
of his
didn't lay
arms.
eyes on Mo
At that
Yinyu
moment,
or Master
two
Crow
waves
at
of
all.
evil spirits
Once he was out,
rushed
he instantly
into
ran for
Janitai's
the
head.
next tree.
His
with the
body
thickest
froze.
leaves.
Both
However,
eyes filled with
both
bloody scenes
Mo
and
Yinyu
creepy
and Master
skeletons.
Kuru were
He
warriors
felt
of the
like he
nascent
was
realm,
suddenly deprived
which was
of
superior
all his
to
power.
Yan's elementary
Boom!
realm.
Unless Shi Yan arrived, attacked them right in front of Zheng Tai, and there was no way that Shi Yan could confront them face to face, to say nothing of one versus the two of them. Don't lose him! With a loud shout, Mo Yenyu flew after Shi Yan, while the two warriors of the Mo family followed behind. Master Karu didn't chase Shi Yan instantly. He watched the gray bomb completely destroy the tree branches where Shi Yan had been hiding, waved his hand, and summoned that creepy gray bomb back into his palm. He sneered again, and then followed Mo Yenyu at the speed of light. The two warriors of the Mo family were soon left behind. Mo Yenyu and Master Karu were chasing Shi Yan one after another. They were soon closing in. Boom! A bright blue light ball suddenly exploded right in front of Mo Yenyu and Master Karu, with the shining blue light almost blinding the two of them. Mo Yenyu and Master Karu were too busy following Shi Yan to pay attention to their surroundings, and were instantly surprised and blinded by the shining flash of the blue light. They collided into two giant trees. Before they could regain their eyesight, Shi Yan was already miles away. A blue smoke bomb. Damn it. His entire body was instantly covered by a shining dark light. Shi Yan held up his right fist and rushed towards Master Karu, as if he wanted to try the same attack as last time. Master Karu sneered. Come on, boy. You are certainly looking for death this time. As Shi Yan was rushing forward, something strange suddenly happened to his right hand. Before he hit Master Karu's, a layer of white light appeared around his right fist. A strong wave of negative energy, combined with desperation, fear, and a killing lust, rushed out together instantly. Master Karu became anxious. However, it was already too late for him to make any contingency plans. The next moment, a terrifying storm of horrifying negative desires, filled with craziness and desperation, struck Master Karu's, that was more than capable of defending from a full-strength strike from an elementary realm warrior, shattered into pieces within seconds. The evil spirits entangled around Shi Yan's right fist smashed right through Master Karu's body, storming through into his body like a wild wave. Under the influence of that overwhelming killing power, Master Karu's mind, as well as his body, was completely frozen. He had absolutely no time to react or prepare his defense. Shi Yan took out the dagger that he had been hiding in his left sleeve and swiped right across Master Karu's neck. A hot wave of blood streamed out of Karu's neck, splashing all over Shi Yan's body. A head flew up into the air and fell onto the ground 3 meters away. The profound chi inside Master Karu's body was now running wild. Mixed with all those terrifying thoughts inside Master Karu's mind right before his last breath, his profound chi was now flowing into Shi Yan's meridians with an unstoppable force. Shi Yan could clearly feel the strong energy within this unique wave of profound chi. His whole body trembled slightly with excitement. Different from previous warriors like Zheng Tai, Master Karu was a nascent realm warrior. The profound chi inside his body was much thicker and more concentrated. The profound chi that Shi Yan got from him after his death was way more powerful than what he got from the previous warriors. Shi Yan was standing still. He couldn't move at all. It took him almost a minute to absorb all the profound chi inside Master Karu's body. After taking off the only bag that Master Karu had on him, Shi Yan felt like his whole body was aching, as if he had lost all the power in his arms and legs, especially his right arm, which he had used for his previous attacks. He couldn't use any strength in his right arm, as if this was the consequence he had to face after such an intense attack which had caused some backlash in his body. Don't let him get away. Not far behind, he could hear the shouting and screaming of Mo Yenyu. Although the several blue smoke bombs Shi Yan had set off had successfully slowed her down, she had managed to catch up after a couple of minutes. It seemed that she wasn't alone. Chasing along with her were a few warriors from the Mo family. At the moment, Shi Yan could feel that some energy within his body was caged for the moment, so he didn't want to fight against Mo Yenyu or those warriors directly. Shi Yan took Master Karu's backpack, jumped into the thick bushes, and started running like hell once again. Chapter 14. Music from the Heaven. Chapter 14. Music from Heaven. Mo Yenyu suddenly stopped. The 4 warriors from the Mo family who followed her out of the thick forest were filled with a heavy look on their face. On the ground lied Master Karu's corpse, which was still warm. However, the corpse had already been deprived of all its profound chi and lay there dry as a mummy. Looking at the scene, all 4 warriors stood by Mo Yenyu's side with terror in their eyes. One of them came up to Mo Yenyu after some hesitation and said, "Miss Mo." Mo Yenyu was trembling. After a while, she replied with a frown, "Stop the chase." But Miss, the warrior, wanted to add something. Master Karu had already achieved the second sky of the nascent realm, the same level as me. Moreover, he had far more fighting experience than me. Mo Yenyu shook her head with a hopeless look. "I don't know how he killed Master Karu, but this means that he is capable of killing any of us right now. If we keep chasing him, we probably won't even be able to make it back to the Merchant Union. So we just let him go like this? Miss Mo, we have spent a lot of money in order to get Master Karu to work for us," that warrior said in a low voice. "So, Li Tian, if we don't give up, can you come up with a better idea?" That warrior suddenly went silent. Mo Yenyu kneeled down beside the cold corpse of Master Karu. She searched through his body and cursed in a low voice, "Shit! That bastard has taken everything from Master Karu, all the medicine and medical books. This time we are literally here for nothing." All the other 4 warriors went silent together. They didn't dare to say anything. "Go back to Johnson. From now on, we must act in groups. No individual movement is allowed." Mo Yenyu took a deep breath. Then she stood up and turned back to the way they came. From that moment, she hated Shi Yan's guts. On the other side, Shi Yan was still running for his life in the dark forest. The bloodthirst was still running wild inside his body. It was devouring his consciousness bit by bit. The negative energy of madness, brutality, and bloodthirst was invading his mind uncontrollably. Gradually, his sight blacked out and his body felt on the verge of a breakdown from the wild energy. At that moment, he was extremely weak and tired. He couldn't gather any strength in his arms or legs. He must avoid a fight with anyone. Otherwise, he would be dead for sure. Sure, Yen wasn't sure how long he could hold on. He never expected his body to react in such a strange way, so he had made no contingency plans. Boom! The wild bloodthirst inside his mind finally exploded. Sure, Yen was panting heavily as he totally lost his sight. There was only one voice in his head, whispering, repeating the same word. "Kill! Kill! 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 Kill!" Sure, Yen knew that before long, he will have lost all his sanity and become a mindless, bloodthirsty beast. He would be filled with the intent to kill. A beautiful music suddenly flew into Shi Yan's ears from a distance. The music was like water drops falling onto a jade plate, like the wind shuttling through a silk curtain. It was as soft as a bird flapping its wings, as light as a gentle stream flowing through a quiet forest. The music was so beautiful, so peaceful, as if it flew down from heaven. The beautiful music was like a soft hand soothing his heart. It had taken away all his bloody and crazy desire. Slowly, it also helped Shi Yan regain his sanity, which was on the brink of breakdown. Thanks to that soft and soothing music, Shi Yan gradually regained his sanity before he lost his mind. He slowly walked in the direction of that music with an intoxicated look on his face. He felt like his whole body was soaking in that beautiful music and all the bloodlust inside his body had totally disappeared. In a small valley full of unique flowers and special plants, Shi Yan saw a beautiful figure playing the zither. She was just sitting cross-legged in the middle of the flowers. She slightly lowered her head and was completely putting herself into the music, unaware of Shi Yan's presence. Shi Yan moved closer and closer and stopped around 100 meters away from her back. He stood there and was flabbergasted with the beautiful figure in front of him. He stood there with closed eyes, trying to immerse himself in the beautiful sound of zither. After a while, the sound of zither gradually slowed down and finally stopped. Shi Yan felt awakened from a pleasant dream. He found that his anger and bloodlust were completely gone, as if they had never existed. However, his body still felt heavy. The intense pain in his chest was especially intense. It seemed that he was still suffering from that blow from Master Karu. Shi Yan concentrated his attention and could feel the flowing profound qi within his meridians. He could sense that his body was still processing the profound qi that he had absorbed from Master Karu. The beautiful figure at distance slowly turned around with an ancient zither in her hands. She slightly frowned and looked straight at Shi Yan. Shi Yan couldn't help but tremble. His eyes were staring at the beautiful girl in front of him unceasingly. So beautiful! He unconsciously blurted out. That girl was around 18 or 19 years old, dressed in a white overskirt. Her eyes were sparkling. Her teeth were gleaming, her skin was soft and smooth, and her figure was delicate and slim. She could be described as a beautiful goddess from heaven, but at the same time also as the cute girl that lived next door. She was so perfect. Shi Yan couldn't tell who was more beautiful, Mo Yin or the girl in front of him. The lovely girl gave Shi Yan a single glance. She then turned around in silence and walked slowly towards the little creek hundreds of meters away with the zither in her hands. Shi Yan couldn't help admiring the beautiful women in this world. Overall, he had only met 2 women in this world, but they were both so breathtaking, like one in a million. "Miss, thanks a lot for your beautiful music. Can I?" Seeing the girl was walking away from him, Shi Yan couldn't help but shout, "Hey, stop it. Enough is enough." Suddenly, a strong figure jumped from the giant ancient tree in front of Shi Yan. It was a middle-aged man with a hairy yellow face. He was wearing a gray-brown warrior's outfit. He looked very tall and strong with a huge sword on his shoulder. But he didn't look very serious, just standing in front of Shi Yan, looking at him with a weird smile on his face. No doubt, Shi Yan was caught off guard. He instantly put on alert. Just by looking at him, he could clearly sense a terrifying energy from this yellow-faced man in front of him. It didn't take him long to understand that this yellow-faced man was definitely a warrior way above his level. The yellow-faced man was just looking at him, not intentionally releasing any energy to pressure him at all. But Shi Yan already felt like he was as untouchable as a steady mountain. Shi Yan took a step back, showing that he didn't come with any evil thoughts. Then he faked a smile and said, "The music that the beautiful Miss played was so enchanting. I just can't get enough. I stayed just to listen to more of her music, nothing else. Don't worry." To Shi Yan, this girl had the most magical music skills. Her beautiful music could apparently help him control the bloody desire within his mind. Shi Yan was not sure when this craving for blood inside of him would come back again. Therefore, he was desperate to find something to help him control this ugly desire inside him body. "I can tell that you are just a lustful guy, nothing else. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let you live until now." The yellow-faced man laughed and said in a relaxed mood, "But here is not the place for you to be lustful. I suggest you get the hell away from us. Otherwise, you will be in a lot of trouble." "Okay, as you wish." Shi Yan lifted both hands to show cooperation. He didn't stay any longer. However, he took a glance at that beautiful figure in distance before turning around and leaving. Uncle Luo! I sensed a strong, evil spirit in that man. Back then, his whole body was filled with a killing desire, and he almost went berserk. However, after his bloodlust faded away, he dared to take such a lustful look at me. I guess he shouldn't belong to the dark world. Mu Yu Dai said with mild discomfort when she recalled Shi Yan's lustful look at her. That man, it seemed that he could never hide his desire from within. Although there were other men who also wanted her, they would at least do it in secret or cover up their desires when they laid eyes on her. They wouldn't expose their dirty thoughts to the world. However, that guy, he didn't even try to cover up his lust for her in his eyes. What she saw in his eyes was a simple and straightforward desire. He can't be from the dark world. The assassins sent by the dark world were all warriors of the nascent realm, but that guy was still an elementary realm warrior. Luo Hao laughed and said, "But interesting though, that guy was not even a nascent realm warrior, but dared to dream about our beautiful princess who has already achieved the third sky. This guy has some balls. Haha. Ah, I am still not sure when I can recover. Currently, I am powerless." Mu Yu Dai slightly sighed with her heart filled with sorrow. "Uncle Luo, if the assassins did come and you couldn't defeat them, please just leave me behind. I can rely on myself. What is this nonsense?" Hearing this, Luo Hao was apparently not very happy. He said with a firm voice, "We are not far away from the Merchant Union right now. If we can survive the next few weeks, 1 month at most, we can definitely get out of this dark forest. Once we reach the Merchant Union, the dark world can't do anything to hurt us." Goo, goo, with a strange whistle from the distance. Before long, 2 men and a woman who dressed like a mercenary came out of the forest with a heavy look. The leader came up to Luo Hao and said, "Sorry, Uncle Luo, we couldn't keep up with the trackers from the dark world." Luo Hao nodded and said with a frown, "We must set out right now and choose a new location to rest. Otherwise, the assassins from the dark world will soon find and surround us." The 5 of them did not stay for long. They quickly packed their stuff and left in a hurry. Right after Shi Yan left the girl, the craving for blood slowly rose up again in his mind. This unstoppable desire for blood may have something to do with the profound qi that Shi Yan got from Master Karu. Because Master Karu had the power of a nascent realm warrior, his profound qi was mixed with too much negative energy. Therefore, it would take Shi Yan much more time and effort to purify his profound qi. While his meridians were processing Master Karu's profound qi, these annoying negative energies would spill over from time to time and ignite his crazy desire for blood from inside his body. But that girl's music could help him control those wild desires, so he didn't lose his sanity and fall into an abyss of craziness and chaos back then. However, his meridians were still working on purifying Master Karu's profound qi. Until this process was completed, there was a pretty good chance that Shi Yan would fall into that bloody, crazy state again. Before his body finished the purification of Master Karu's profound qi, that beautiful girl could definitely be his cure to stay sane. Knowing that another bloody urge was slowly creeping up on him, Shi Yan was overwhelmed by a bad feeling. After some hesitation, he still started walking towards that girl's direction. Only the beautiful music of that girl could help him to calm down, and only by following her steps could Shi Yan get the chance to hear that heaven-like sound again. Chapter 15. Promoting to Nascent Level Warrior. Chapter 15. Promotion to the Nascent Realm. "Uncle Luo, there's someone following us." One among the group of mercenaries said to their leader with a low voice, "It must be that scout sent by the dark world." That mercenary had a young, handsome face. He looked like 25 to 26 years old and was already 85 meters tall, with a strong and slim figure. He was a nascent realm warrior who had already reached the third sky. His eyes were shining with energy and was always on alert. just from a simple glance, Shi Yan knew that he was an excellent warrior. No, he is not from the dark world. He is just a horny little stalker, so shameless. No need to pay attention to him. Luo Hao shook his head and said with a frown, "Let's hurry. Just leave him alone." Zhao Exan didn't look happy about this and said with a cold voice, "Is he after Miss Mu? How dare he? Shall I wait here to teach him a lesson?" While he was talking, he gave a caring look at the delicate girl named Mu Dai, who was leaning on Luo Hao. "No, don't make any trouble if it's not necessary." Luo Hao shook his head again and asked the girl in a soft voice, "Dai, are you okay with this? Shall we speed up a little bit?" Mu Dai was looking very pale and was perspiring heavily. She smiled politely. "Yes, I can hold on. We could go faster. Maybe it would be better if we leave that man behind. Otherwise, he will also be killed by those assassins sent by the dark world." Luo Hao couldn't help but sigh, feeling pity for this kind-hearted girl. He nodded to her and said, "Dai, don't use any more of your profound qi. I am here for you to lean on." After saying that, Luo Hao held the shoulders of Mu Dai as if she were a delicate flower and ran between the trees in the forest with ease. When he was about to land on the ground, he would control his mighty body to just slightly touch the ground before jumping up again. There were no footprints left behind him. Obviously, he was a first-class master at maneuvering his profound qi. On the other side, Shi Yan was struggling very hard with such a march. It was becoming more and more difficult for him to breathe. The desire for blood had been killing him all the way. His body was also aching from the intense blow from Master Karu. Due to the intense fight he just had, Shi Yan suffered a severe loss of profound qi, which couldn't be restored within a short period of time. Under these circumstances, if he ever encountered Mo Yanyu again, there was no doubt that he would be dead. Therefore, he had no choice but to recover as soon as possible and control his own body, which had gone wild. The beautiful music of that girl was indeed his only hope. He didn't care whether that girl liked him or not. Sure, Yen felt like he didn't have a choice. Even if she thought that he was a shameless bastard, let it be. He would always follow her steps, as long as she would play that enchanting music again. Shi Yan tried to control his growing urge for murder and had an evil look on his face. Shi Yan moved most of his profound qi, which was not much, to his legs, and tried his best to keep up with the 5 people ahead of him. Shi Yan completely cleared his mind and became more focused than ever. The only goal that he had in his mind was to keep up with those people. Once he cleared his thoughts, he felt this march not as hard as before. "Uncle Luo, I cannot believe that guy was just an elementary realm warrior." In midst of their rapid movement, Zhao Exan suddenly said with surprise. Luo Hao was also wondering. According to his knowledge, a warrior of the elementary realm shouldn't be able to keep up with their speed. Although they had successfully distanced themselves from the man behind, they never managed to ditch him. That man must have some endurance to keep him chasing all the way. This made Luo Hao a little curious, making him wonder whether he had underestimated this warrior the previous time they met. "Uncle Luo, I can keep up. You could speed up a little," Mu Dai said with pain and a layer of sweat on her face. "No, if we go any faster, you would get hurt." Luo Hao stubbornly refused, he said in a low voice with a frown. "Don't pay too much attention to the man behind. He is looking for death. If he dies, it is not our fault." "Awu!" As they spoke, a loud roaring as horrifying as that of a wild beast came from behind, which was apparently from Shi Yan. However, that roaring didn't sound human at all. It was filled with craziness and an evil craving for blood and killing, making anybody who had heard it tremble inside. Is this guy human or not? The hot female mercenary named Dialin couldn't help but tremble, and said with a scared look in her eyes, "How could any human make such a terrifying sound? This is even more terrifying than the roaring of a demon beast that had gone crazy." The crazy craving inside his body is eating him up again. Luo Hao started to look nervous and said quickly, "Stay away from him. Otherwise he might attack us. He has already gone crazy. It's not very difficult to kill him, but it might waste our precious time to escape. The unnecessary fight will certainly draw the attention of those Dark World assassins, and we would be in a lot of trouble. Just let me help him. Otherwise, he will become a crazy monster that only knows to kill and would start a bloody war in this dark forest." Mu Yu Dai said after a little hesitation, and unwrapped the zither that she had been carrying. Despite the dissuasion of Luo Hao and the other warriors, she sat down with her legs crossed and started to play a song. Luo Hao stepped hard on the ground with anger. "He is such a bastard. He is not at all worthy of your help." The mesmerizing sound of the zither flowed through the dark forest like a gentle stream, right toward Shi Yan, as if it was specifically meant for him. With both of his eyes turning crimson, Shi Yan was on the brink of going crazy, almost losing to that murderous rage. Hearing the familiar music, he was suddenly awakened. With a light flashing through his eyes, he just stood there like completely lost in that beautiful music. A trace of the negative energy combined with desperation and fear slowly drifted out of his body and started to surround him like a light mist. It felt like millions of tornadoes in each of his 720 meridians, and he could feel the unique energy that he got from Master Karu being purified and concentrated over and over again. After a while, Shi Yan's eyes gradually returned to normal, and he began to regain the look of a sane man. At that moment, he realized that this was all due to the generous help of that beautiful girl. She had saved him again. With deep gratitude in his heart, Shi Yan sat down right where he was. He put his heart and soul into this beautiful music and started to operate his profound qi inside his body without a second thoughts. Immersing in this soothing music, he started to relax. Right in the middle of this dark forest, filled with all kinds of unexpected danger, Shi Yan managed to enter the world of the selfless state. He didn't remember how long it took before he awoke. The mist wrapping around him had already been absorbed into his own body, and under his guidance, flew through the different meridians inside his body. Suddenly, thousands of warm but strange streams of energy spilled over from all the meridians in his body and started to propel his profound qi through his veins. Shi Yan couldn't help but tremble. He could clearly feel his profound qi compressing and strengthening with an amazing speed. Within seconds, he could feel his profound qi became 5 or 6 times stronger, and it was more concentrated than before. His strengthened, profound qi suddenly started to gather in his abdomen and filled his entire body with power. Realizing that he must have finally purified all the profound qi that he got from Master Karu, Shi Yan was overwhelmed. Shi Yan slowed his breathing and concentrated all his energy in operating all his profound qi towards his 12 major veins and 8 special veins. The profound qi stormed through his entire body like a raging flood. Shi Yan was able to unblock all his congested veins, albeit suffering from intense pain. He felt as if his shoulders were finally able to relax. Now that his profound qi had become stronger than ever, he felt like he had unlimited potential. The sun had already set, and the moon was shining brightly in the starry sky. With the last of his veins cleared, Shi Yan was very excited. He was trying very hard to contain his exuberance, while operating the profound qi in a cycle throughout the body. When his cycle was finally over, Shi Yan felt like he was waking up from a very long dream. He looked up at all the shining stars in the sky, feeling nothing but unparalleled happiness. Now that he had broken through all the veins in his body, he could be said to have promoted to the nascent realm. From the profound qi that he got from Master Karu, and through the incidents when he almost lost his mind and went crazy with bloodlust, he had finally purified all the power he got from Master Karu and broke through all his veins with the newly purified and concentrated profound qi. Now, he had finally entered into a whole new level. After purification of all the energy he got from Master Karu, the bloodlust that had once tangled his mind had suddenly vanished. Now that he thought about it, Shi Yan realized that every time after absorbing the profound qi from the dead, and until the profound qi was completely purified by his meridians, there would always be some negative energy spilling over from his meridians, which would trigger the darker side of himself and drive him into a state of insanity. Because the first few victims of him were just elementary realm warriors with moderate energy, he could still control the negative desires. But Master Karu was a nascent realm warrior with a power far beyond Shi Yan's league. There was too much negative energy within Master Karu's profound qi. Therefore, that time Shi Yan couldn't control the negative energy and almost lost his sanity. Right now, since he had fully purified the profound qi that he got from Master Karu and entered a completely new level, Shi Yan didn't need to worry about the eruption of the evil power anymore. Kaka! Shi Yan stretched his body a little and stood up slowly. He was feeling completely refreshed. The broken bones in his chest also seemed to have recovered. Shi Yan checked his body for wounds, but found them all healed. This made him extremely happy. He knew that his speedy recovery was not only due to his promotion, but also had something to do with his immortal martial spirit. Right before losing himself to the music, he had felt the cells near his chest wounds repairing and beginning to heal. Looking around, Shi Yan realized that the location he was in was completely exposed, with no tree cover or shade. Realizing that he had been operating his profound qi here, forgetting everything around him, Shi Yan felt lucky that nothing unexpected had happened to him. By practicing his profound qi in such an exposed location, had Mo Yanyu still been looking for him, he would have definitely been captured by her. At present, that mesmerizing music was long gone. He remembered the sky was still bright when fell under the effects of music. However, now it was already midnight. He must have been practicing for a long time without realizing. He felt immense gratitude towards that beautiful girl. She had saved him more than once. The first time she might have saved him unintentionally, but the second time, it was specifically for him. Based on the discussion he overheard from the 5 people, Shi Yan realized that they were being chased by someone. However, he didn't think too much and decided to continue following them. He didn't like owing favors, and so he decided to pay back the girl's kindness in his own way. Chapter 16, Treasure. Chapter 16, Treasure. Beside the small, gentle stream, the ground dragon was drinking water quietly, its robust body covered with scales. Mo Yanyu was sitting upright in a sedan high on the dragon and playing with a blue smoke bomb in her hand, lost in thought. Recently, she was haunted by Shi Yan. Every time she remembered the cold decisiveness in Shi Yan's eyes, she became restless. How she wished she could catch him and ruin his veins and bones. Given Master Karu's death, she had already released the medicine slaves who were of no use now. With her were 11 warriors from the Mo family who were only of the elementary realm. Their power was insufficient to help Mo Yanyu search for Shi Yan. As such, she could only wait for the relief troops from the family. All of a sudden, a pale blue light shot up across the sky some 5 miles ahead. They have arrived. Mo Yanyu's spirit rose. She immediately threw the blue smoke bomb up into the sky, and thus the same pale blue light was seen above her. The warriors around the ground dragon rejoiced with a lively outburst of happiness as if they were getting ready for a fight. In less than a quarter of an hour, 3 dark shadows showed up from afar and flew in their direction. The first of them had a graceful beard and wore an indifferent smile. He approached near Mo Yanyu and laughed loudly. "Yanyu, where is Master Karu?" "Third uncle, Master Karu is dead." Mo Yanyu explained in a very unwilling manner. "We met a thief midway. He was only elementary ranked, but he still was able to kill Master Karoo. I just can't figure it out. Mo Chowga's smile disappeared at once, and his face turned pale. Have you got the thing that was on Karoo? Mo Yen shook her head. It was taken by that thief. Stupid. Mo Chowga cursed in a low voice. With a cold face, he observed, We received information that Karoo had stolen an incomplete picture of the Gate of Heaven from his teacher. His teacher, Mu Sun, is looking for him everywhere for that incomplete picture. It is said in the God area where the Gate of Heaven leads to are martial skills of the spirit and even sacred level. I came here in a hurry with 2 escorts just for that incomplete picture. But you let him die. How stupid. What? Mo Yen was shocked. How could that be? Why would Karoo leave Medicine Valley with you if he hadn't stolen that valuable map from his teacher? You think he was attracted by the wealth of Mo family? Humph. He was attempting to get shelter in the Merchant Union so that his teacher, Mu Sun, couldn't kill him. Mo Chowga thought for a second seriously and reproached. Tell me the details. That man must be still in the dark forest. We have to find him. The picture means a lot. We, the Mo family, have to get it. Mo Yen started to realize how bad the situation was. She told him all the details, except that she was violated by Shi Yen twice. Dumbass. Mo Chowga scolded again. He flew into a rage. You didn't keep tracking him? That bastard is only of the elementary realm. No matter how he killed Karoo, he must have paid a significant price. He might have been hurt too. If you had chased him, you could have killed him easily. Too dumb. I was afraid that we would lose more, so... Mo Yen lowered her head in shame. An elementary realm guy, and you were afraid of him. Mo Chowga was annoyed. You wasted so many resources of our Mo family. What are you doing now? Show me the way. You. Bring the ground dragon back to the Merchant Union through the secure route. Others, follow me and search. They looked for Shi Yen for 2 days, but still found nothing. Under the moonlight, Shi Yen was leaning against an ancient tree and deep in thought. He had decided to stop the chase for the time being. He took off Karoo's bag from his back and opened it to look into the contents. Inside the bag was a volume on poison, several bottles of poison refined by Karoo, and 2 mortal-level martial skill books. And, apart from those things, there a dark yellow, incomplete picture on which were painted 2 hills. Shi Yen studied it for 2 days but found nothing, so he didn't take it seriously. Of the 2 martial skills to train required a collection of black chi first. Thinking hard for 2 days, Shi Yen didn't come up with any idea of where he could find black chi, and so he soon forgot about it. Fortunately, the other martial skill didn't require anything special. One simply needed to operate his profound chi according to the meridian map. Shi Yen took out the book on from the bag and started to train in it. He was determined to learn that skill, and thus made every effort in remembering the mnemonics of the skill. Was a defensive martial skill. It used profound chi to form a layer of dark light around one's body in order to defend from an enemy's assault. It was just a mortal-level martial skill and needed no requirements but one, the flow of profound chi. Shi Yen packed the bag and observed the surroundings for a while. Assured that it was safe, he quietly climbed up a tree behind him, hid himself in the thickets, and started to train them. After reaching the nascent realm, his veins were as smooth as silk. Once he thought of moving his profound chi, it would immediately flow into the veins. Sitting in meditation, Shi Yen operated his profound chi quietly and trained according to the meridian map 4. The profound chi flew around his body like a gentle stream in a controlled manner. At once, Shi Yen sped up the circulation of his profound chi. Pump! Suddenly, a hazy black light started emitting from Shi Yen. It gradually started forming a layer over his whole body. Shi Yen was quite sure that he was training in the correct way, so he once again accelerated the profound qi. The black light emitting his body began to grow in intensity. At first it was only 1/2 meter, then it formed a 1-meter thick layer, exactly the same as Karu's. A long time passed. Sure, Yen exhaled a mixed breath and opened his eyes leisurely. The profound qi in him had already finished 6 big circulations. Success! Sure, Yen smiled. He found that it was very easy to train in it. In merely one night, he had grasped the essential part of this martial skill. With his profound qi growing, he only needed to accelerate its circulation, and his defense would increase greatly. Up in the sky, the moon had disappeared. Dawn was coming near. Sure, Yen was not in a hurry to leave. He calmed his mind and tried to operate the profound qi for a second time. The profound qi flew toward his left arm. Once it arrived at the first meridian, Sure Yen had another thought, and his profound qi promptly started rotating in that meridian. After 3 breaths, Sure Yen changed his mind again. Immediately, the profound qi flew backwards, and he felt a splitting pain in that vein. It was the phenomenon that occurred while training. Enduring the pain in his arm, Sure Yen continued to circulate his profound qi. He tried again as he according the process he previously followed in his right arm. The muscles in the left arm began to contract and slowly became dry and thin. Thin white fog was coming out of his left arm. In the white fog was a mix of negative feelings such as fear, cruelty, and despair, which had the weird power of bewildering people's minds. The negative feelings sourced from the meridians in the left arm and were temporarily bound by the fog. Once he fought with others, they would leak out of his arm directly. The sun was hanging high in the sky. Sure, Yen was sweating all over while fully concentrating on his left arm. His left arm was covered with a heavy fog which was sending out a putrid smell. Sure Yen was then filled with a desire for murder. Hoo! Sure, Yen was trying very hard to control his desire. He withdrew the profound qi in his arm, little by little, back into his abdomen. Therefore, his arm gradually went back to normal, and the white fog around it began to drift back into his meridians through his veins, till none of it remained around his arm. Sure, Yen leaned against the tree trunk with a deathly pale face. Exhausted, he was drowned in mixed feelings. This martial skill was able to induce all the negative energy in his meridians, though the negative energy would also disturb his mind. This martial skill was a double-edged sword in battle, which would make him lose his mind. It did bring a warrior enormous power, but it was at the same time very dangerous. Nevertheless, Sure Yen remembered when broke Karu's, and the odd state of Karu when his brain was invaded by the negative energy. Sure, Yen thus made up his mind to train this vicious martial skill with his whole body. He wanted to know what would happen to his body when all the negative power within his all meridians was induced. He had this vague thought that as long as he finished training the first sky of, his body would have a major shift and that his strength would surge by 2 times. Shoo! 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 There came a sound of someone approaching from afar. Sure Yen frowned and slowed his breathing. He then started observing his surroundings. Not before long, 7 shadows, each of whom were wearing a gray gown and a pale mask, stopped under the ancient tree, seeming to be waiting for something. On the shoulders of 6 of those 7 men were signs of silver stars, while on the last one's shoulder was a sign of silver crescent. Wen! Woon! A weird sound came from the grove ahead, sounding like a communication signal. Under the ancient tree, the tall, thin man with the crescent on his shoulder had a cold look in his eyes. He listened to the surroundings for 5 seconds and remarked, according to the secret message, they have been spotted in a valley 20 miles away. Now chase after them. The troop of 7 people passed rapidly. 10 seconds after they left, Sure Yen stuck his head out of the leaves. After thinking for a while, he jumped down the tree and followed after them, secretly. Chapter 17. 10 Times of Gravity. Chapter 17. 10 Times Gravity. The serene valley was now filled with broken weapons. Luo Hao, Zhao Xian, and other men were encircling Muyu Dai, defending against the fierce attacks of those from the dark world. The tall, thin man in a gray gown, on whose shoulder was an embroidered silver crescent, was directing his 8 subordinates to encircle the 4 of them. The eyes were cold and ghastly under their pale masks. "Miss Mu, you'd better come back with us to the Lord of the Dark World, or we don't know what we will do to you." The tall, thin man in gray gown, seemingly the leader, remarked coldly as he was directing his people. Disgusted, Muyu Dai shook her head and said firmly, "I would rather die than go back with you guys." "So you have decided not to cooperate, Miss Mu. Then I'm very sorry if my people catch you." Pausing for a second, the man grinned. "Luo Hao, you should know how powerful our dark world is. If you go against us, you are bringing about your own destruction." "Huh?" Luo Hao burst into laughter. His voice was resonant. "I'm always alone. To kill me, you dark world would have to pay a lot. You are a dark moon emissary of the dark world, with the power of the second sky of the disaster realm. It's enough to bring you with me when I die. Do you think you even deserve that type of death?" That emissary shook his head and vanished into thin air. The next moment, he was standing 3 meters in front of Luo Hao. He stretched out his left hand, his 5 fingers shaped like a claw. Between them glowed a ghost-like green light, which suddenly flew toward Luo Hao and started to twine about him like a ribbon. Luo Hao's facial expression changed a bit. He uttered calmly, "Zhao Xian, you 3, protect Dai." Boom, boom, boom. Luo Hao's heart was beating several times faster than before. Around him, the power of gravity surged 10 times. All of a sudden, the 8 men surrounding Luo Hao's group felt an immense pressure, as if they were being pressed down by a huge mountain. The pressure almost made them kneel on the ground. Even the crescent emissary was affected. However, he grunted and said, "Luo Hao, what a surprise! Yours is truly at an advanced level. 10 times gravity. No wonder you are so arrogant. Ha ha ha. If I can't even do that, how could I claim that I will bury you with me?" Luo Hao replied calmly, with an indifferent smile on his face. Meanwhile, the broadsword on his shoulder gave out a dazzling blue light, increasing that monstrous pressure. Luo Hao laughed loudly as he wielded the sword in his hand, and walked right in front of Muyu Dai, obstructing the crescent emissary. After the crescent emissary displayed a gloomy green light had pervaded the air, but it seemed to be influenced by the increased gravity, for the crescent emissary had difficulty controlling it. He curved his fingers and pushed forward as he encircled Luo Hao with other 3-star emissaries. "Zhao Xian, take Miss Mu away." Luo Hao shouted. The broadsword in his hand gave out a bright blue light and looked like a shooting star when slashed. It was able to obstruct the enemy and bar their way. Shi Yan was hiding behind an ancient tree, some 50 meters away from the fight. He gazed at the fight with a rigid face, with his eyes shining in the dark. All the people from the dark world were at the nascent realm, and that crescent emissary had reached the second sky of the disaster realm. It was too much for him. If he hastily took action, he would be easily killed before he could move near Muyu Dai. Shi Yan was envisioning various scenarios for the best possible approach. A few seconds later, his eyes radiated. He grabbed his bag cautiously and took out the bone-cutting powder, which was wrapped in a soft cloth. Lowering his body, he then quietly climbed out onto the tree branch. Through the long branches of the tree, Shi Yan was moving cautiously toward the battling crowd. Bone-cutting powder was a drug invented by Karu, the alchemist who was unmindful of his work. It made one's veins and bones become numb, decreased their power. Its effect could last for 3 hours, enough time to change the result of a battle. Zhao Xian, leave! Luo Hao roared as his sword radiated with blue light. He, by himself, was fighting against the Dark World's assassins. Miss Mu. Zhao Xian was anxious. He stamped on the ground and said, "Hurry, please!" Mu Yu Dai looked tranquil, but her eyes showed stubbornness. She spoke softly, "I won't leave. If you 3 stay, we might win. But once we leave, Uncle Luo will definitely die. Without Uncle Luo, we can't win against the Dark World anyway. We would still be caught." "Good. Let's fight till death." Zhao Xian was a smart person. Upon hearing Mu Yi Dai's words, he made up his mind and shouted, "Di Yalin! Hulong! Fight!" They encircled Mu Yu Dai, took out their sharp weapons, and charged with all their strength toward those Dark World emissaries. "4 of you, go and take care of those 3 kids." The Crescent emissary frowned and ordered coldly, "Don't hurt Miss Mu. The Lord has given the order. Miss Mu should be taken back alive and unhurt." "Yes, sir," the 4-star emissaries replied, and in no time rushed toward those 3. Just then, abruptly, a slight sound came from above. The Crescent emissary aroused vigilance. As soon as he looked up, he shouted, "Damn it! Run!" It was too late. Gray dust fell from the sky like drizzle and spread over the area. Everybody, including those from the Dark World, were covered by the dust. No one was spared. The Crescent emissary quickly realized the situation as he held his breath. Though he drew back, there was still a lot of dust on his gown. However, the dust had a strong penetrating power as it entered into his body through his skin. As his hands and feet became numb, he had a quick thought and operated his profound chi to defend against it. But those star emissaries were not as cautious as he was. Many of them inhaled the bone-cutting powder, which went into their hearts and lungs, which then quickly affected their bodies. In a few seconds, they were numb all over. Their bones softened and their strength weakened. Luo Hao's face turned dark all of a sudden. He was a victim too. Exhausted from the fight, he circulated his meager, profound chi throughout his body in order to counter the poison. He looked up into the sky with cold eyes. A thin figure showed up from the branches above them. With an indifferent face, that person flew down from the tree lightly and stood by Mu Yu Dai calmly, with the latter shocked. He took out a medicine bag and said lightly, "Smell the fragrance, you will be detoxified." "It's you." Astonishment took over Mu Yu Dai's moon-like face. She couldn't believe it was Shi Yan who flew down from the above. Gazing at Shi Yan carefully, Mu Yu Dai was even more surprised. Shi Yan had reached the nascent realm in the past few days. How on earth? "Miss, you have saved me twice. Once unintentionally and another intentionally. I will remember that forever." Shi Yan smiled. Seeing that, Mu Yu Dai grabbed the medicine bag. He added, "The effect of the bone-cutting powder shall last for 3 hours, which is not too long, but not too short either. You should know how to deal with it, Mississippi." His dark eyes suddenly went cold. "Got it." Mu Yu Dai got what Shi Yan said. She took a deep breath of the fragrance, and then passed the bag to Zhao Xian near her. "Quick!" The Crescent emissary was still operating his profound chi to defend against the effects of bone-cutting powder. Seeing that situation, he shouted with a rigid face, "Move! Grab that medicine bag. If they are cured by that powder, none of you will survive." After saying that, he forced his profound chi and dashed toward Luo Hao. As soon as those star emissaries comprehended the situation, they began to besiege Zhao Xian again, despite the poison in their bodies. Before Zhao Xian could get the medicine bag from Mu Yu Dai, he was surrounded by numerous attacks. His face turned pale, and he had to give up on the medicine bag. Instead, he concentrated and began to confront those emissaries' attacks. So were Hulong and Di Yanlan. Under the fierce attacks of those star emissaries, they couldn't even breathe from the medicine bag. Mu Yu Dai held onto that medicine bag, but couldn't get a chance to pass it to others. So she became very anxious. Helplessly, Mu Yu Dai turned to Shi Yan. Her beautiful eyes were asking for his help. Everybody else was poisoned by bone-cutting powder, and she couldn't operate her profound qi wildly. Although Shi Yan was low-ranked, he was quite important now. Seeing Mu Yu Dai's pleading eyes, Shi Yan smiled and asked naturally, "Miss, may I know your name?" "Mu Yu Dai." "A nice name." Shi Yan nodded and imprinted that name in his mind. Under Mu Yu Dai's gaze, he darted out instantly. With a dagger in his hand, Shi Yan broke into those emissaries and wielded his dagger with a serious face. The dagger made cold streaks in the air. In no time, the star emissary who was most affected by the bone-cutting powder had a deep wound in his neck and fell to the ground on his back. Shi Yan made swift moves amongst those emissaries and left scars on them, his body flashing like a sharp weapon. Mu Yu Dai combed her short hair to the side of her ear with her hand. Astonishment flashed through her eyes, and there was a weird look on her face. I just wanted him to pass them the bag." Chapter 18, Being Pursued. Chapter 18, Being Pursued. A star emissary fell on the ground, and his profound qi was siphoned off. Shi Yan circled thrice around him, and his meridians were charged with foreign, profound qi. Waving his dagger, Shi Yan was covered in dark light. He moved among those star emissaries swiftly, avoiding their attacks while leaving wounds on their bodies. 3 star emissaries were completely poisoned by the bone-cutting powder. Their hands and feet were losing strength slowly, and their movements were becoming very slow. Assaulted by Shi Yan, the 3 stood in a triangle, supporting themselves arduously. Shi Yan looked indifferent as he moved about like a ghost. Between the waves of that dagger, icy light exploded. One of the star emissaries was hit in the back, so he couldn't help but shout, "Kill this bastard first!" The other 2 star emissaries nodded in hatred. Letting go of Zhao Xian, Dialin, and Hulong, the 3 emissaries spared no effort to operate their profound qi. 3 streaks of rainbow light sprang from their hands. The rainbow light flew toward Shi Yan like a sentient arrow, reflecting the thoughts of its masters. "Be careful, that is from the dark world." Mu Yu Dai cried, "Don't keep the image of that in your mind, or it will chase you forever." Shi Yan decisively moved out of the entanglement, dropping any ideas of fighting against the enemy, and cleared his mind. In an instant, the 3 lost their direction and shot toward the grass in the distance. Bits of grass burst out in the explosion. "Damn it!" 1 star emissary cursed, and prepared to use some other tricks. Just then, Zhao Xian smelled the medicine bag and gradually recovered from the bone-cutting powder. Realizing this, the star emissary who was ready for trouble dashed toward him. Zhao Xian swung his arms. His arms started to stretch out and draw back like a snake. Like a snake, Zhao Xian clasped the emissary, binding him from all angles. "Hulong!" Mu Yu Dai shouted, and threw the bag to Hulong, who smelled the bag and quickly dashed out. As Zhao Xian and Hulong had both rejoined the fight, Shi Yan felt less stressed. After sniffing the bag, the 2 got their energy back. But those 3 dark star emissaries got weaker and weaker after they poisoned by the bone-cutting powder. Soon they would be killed by Zhao Xian and Hulong. "Dialin, out of the battle. Give this medicine bag to Uncle Luo." Mu Yu Dai called to Dialin as she saw her ready to join the fight. Dialin understood what Mu Yu Dai meant and rapidly ran to Luo Hao. Shi Yan stopped and walked to Mu Yu Dai. Standing by her, he looked indifferent, but his eyes kept wandering to Dialin. Bordeaux long hair, bronze skin. Dialin was wearing crimson armor, which only covered her big breasts, the triangle area, and her cute hips. Her flat belly and shiny long legs were all exposed. Though Dialin's face was not that pretty, her figure was really hot, and her dress was wild enough to arouse any man. Even while standing beside Muyu Dai, Shi Yan didn't look at her at all. On the contrary, he couldn't move his goo-goo eyes away from Dialin, and didn't even bother to hide his male instinct. Is she pretty? Muyu Dai frowned and sniffed. Apparently, she was a little unhappy. Shi Yan came to his senses and smiled to her. Every man will be attracted by this hot girl. Muyu Dai had a gleam in her eyes as she gazed at him for a while, and then she giggled. You are really funny. How old are you? Are you a mature man? Shi Yan was surprised. She reminded him that his body was only 17 years old. And since he was getting skinnier these days, he looked like a 14-year-old boy now. Being in such an immature body and calling himself a man, talking about such erotic thing. Everything he did was really weird. Shaking his head, Shi Yan didn't explain. He pretended to walk away from Muyu Dai naturally and approached Zhao Xian and Hulong. With a shrill cry, a star emissary spurted blood out of his mouth. His heart was ruptured by Zhao Xian's. He shook for a moment and then died. Shi Yan came forward. The profound qi from the dead body was slowly absorbed into Shi Yan's body in a way only he knew. At the same time, Shi Yan's eyes began to show a fierce glint, and a killing desire took over his mind. He knew that before the profound qi was purified, the desire would not disappear easily. Having seen what happened with Master Karu, Shi Yan had some experience now. After sensing it carefully for a while, he found that since he had reached the nascent realm, he could suppress the crazy desire in his mind and kept rational after he absorbed the profound qi from the two persons who were of the same level. Sure, Yan guessed it was because his level was upgraded. He was merely an elementary realm warrior before. While Karu was of the nascent realm, he crossed a realm to purify Karu's profound qi. Thus he went that crazy. Go after them. While Shi Yan was pondering, Zhao Xian yelled and ran with Hulong in the direction of those escaping emissaries. Stop chasing. Let's leave right now. Seeing that the leader, the crescent emissary, was running away too, Luo Hao shouted at Zhao Xian and Hulong. Why, Uncle Luo? Zhao Xian couldn't understand. Luo Hao breathed the fragrance from the medicine bag deeply and urged, Someone's coming. Must be another troop, sent out from the dark world. It will be too late for us to leave if the two troops meet. Remember, what is important is not killing those emissaries, but to protect Dai. Hearing that another troop was coming, Zhao Xian was astonished, and thus nodded in agreement. Luo Hao said no more. Though he had not entirely recovered, he came holding Muyu Dai's arm and said to Shi Yan, Boy, thank you very much. However, it's none of your business, so don't get involved and suffer. Goodbye. I own Miss Mu a life. Shi Yan did not seem to know how ferocious the dark world was. He looked nonchalant and said, One needs to return in form of a lake for the favor of one drop, and Miss Mu did save my life. I discriminate between love and hate. If someone treats me badly, I would pay him back 10 times the hatred. If someone does me a favor, I would also return 10 times the gratitude. I will travel with you for a while. Hope I can help. You sure are a man. Hulong praised. Dialin showed radiance in her eyes and giggled. Kid, you are not only horny, but also righteous and bold. You peeped me for quite a long time. I was going to teach you a lesson. Now you are forgiven. Muyu Dai was stunned. She didn't expect Shi Yan to be so fair-minded. She was a little bit moved. Well, if you insist, I would not stop you. Luo Hao replied and nodded. He held Muyu Dai and began to run. The other 3 followed them rapidly. Yen inhaled and followed instantly. With a troop of warriors from Mo family, Mo Chauga was moving fast through the woods. Suddenly, he stopped halfway, rigidly staring at some emissaries from the dark world who had showed up unexpectedly. The Crescent emissary was astounded too. He observed Mo Chauga and his warriors with questioning eyes. Not knowing where they came from, the emissary was a little worried. Maybe they came to aid Luo Hao. Second uncle, Mo Yinyu murmured. Her intuition was telling her that those people were not here with good intentions, so she wanted to remind Mo Chauga. Mo Chauga stared into the Crescent emissary's eyes for a while and remarked, "Our target is a skinny boy around 15 years of age, who was last seen carrying a bag. We have no intention of offending you." The Crescent emissary was secretly relieved. The bone-cutting powder was taking effect in his body now, so he could only utilize 30% of his ability. If he were to fight against Mo Chauga, the outcome won't be good. Hearing what Mo Chauga said, he had an idea. He said cunningly, "Oh, we have seen that boy. He was with our target. May I know where that boy is now?" Mo Chauga asked politely. He didn't notice that Crescent emissary was poisoned by the bone-cutting powder, but according to the gloomy air of that person, he guessed that the emissary was a tricky one. So he held his arrogance. "Over there." The Crescent emissary directed and answered coldly, "You'd better be careful. That bastard is at a low level, but he is accompanied by a warrior at the first sky of the disaster realm who had the martial art. Too tough." First sky of the disaster realm. Hearing that, Mo Chauga frowned slightly and then nodded. "Thanks for the information. Let's go." Mo Chauga waved his hand and left hurriedly with the warriors of the Mo family. This guy was at the disaster realm as well. After they left, the Crescent emissary's eyes turned dim. He smirked. "Little bastard, you ruined my plan. I will kill you when I recover." You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.